no tinsel. Their half, like tinsel explosion.
There we go.
There we go. Hillary, I think that was actually my fault because I didn't start recording. That makes sense. So sorry about that. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Where are you based, Hillary?
Well, I'm in Toronto, but right now I'm in Seattle, Washington, looking after my nephews.
Very good, very good. So what brings you to content marketing, or what interest do you have in content marketing?
Denise.
Well, Denise very kindly is going to share all of her strategies with all of us tonight, so we're all agog. So no pressure, Denise.
Oh, okay. No, I wanted to. I've missed all of the recent ones that you guys have done because it's Christmas and I'm traveling. But no, I was in the 90-day year with all of you guys as well. Yes. So I've been watching all of your progress.
Oh, and yours, Hillary.
How is everybody?
Yeah, good. It's kind of strange. We were just saying that Christmas is going so quickly. It feels like, you know, from Christmas to New Year, it's, you know, today even I'm not sure. I keep thinking well, actually the internet is telling me it's Wednesday, but I'm looking at my phone, it's telling me it's Tuesday. So I was getting a bit confused earlier. So, but yeah, a good Christmas overall. How about you? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, we had a great time. Great time. I spent part of it in Vancouver, part of it here in Seattle with my sister and her family. And no, very good. Quite relaxed, really.
Sounds fantastic. Vancouver is supposed to be beautiful, actually. I would imagine it's beautiful at this time of year.
It is. It's lovely. It's a bit wet, but other than that, it's fine. But no wetter than the UK, so or Ireland.
Oh, Ireland, yeah. It's raining solidly for the last 3 weeks in Ireland, pretty much. So, yeah. So we've plenty of water. Denise, you seem to we've lost you a little bit there in terms of picture. I think we can hear you though.
Oh.
I would just say the internet signal is playing funny beggars. So do we want to kind of get started, Christina? Okay. Christina's going to MC. She's volunteered tonight, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I know we're in this kind of funny time of kind of half down period, but I actually think most business owners are, you know, sort of full steam ahead, really. Certainly it's really valuable for the downtime. So, you know, kind of appreciate your time and attention today. So for those of you who it's the first time on one of our blabs, I'm Christina Jones. I'm based in the UK, as you can probably guess from the accent. I'm a digital marketer with a specialism in e-commerce. And probably what makes me a little bit different is I've got a digital marketing agency, so we're a Google partner, and work primarily in the equestrian industry, but I've also got my own e-commerce businesses, and 3 sites now. The first one launched in 2001, and I love it because kind of e-commerce suits me down to the ground, because there's always lots of new stuff, and there's really pretty products. But, you know, the kind of what can be really difficult when you're running a digital marketing agency is there is so much new stuff all the time. And until you kind of get down in the trenches and try it out, you're not quite sure how effective things will be, exactly how things work out. And rather than having to sort of unleash untested stuff on clients, I can use my own businesses as a kind of testing ground, and be far more probably experimental really with what we do, and it works really well. So during this sort of course, as Hillary mentioned, Denise and Emma and myself met back actually pretty much 12 months ago through a course called the 90-day year, which is performance strategy. So we're all sports mad. Denise with tennis, and Emma racing and horses, and me kind of the horse sports, but more on the kind of Olympic sports side of it. And we've just kind of really gelled. So Emma, I'll introduce her next because Denise seems to have vanished. So Emma is Emma Darcy from emmadmarketing.ie, because she's based over in the Irish Republic. Emma is my go-to girl for consumer psychology. You know, kind of whatever you're doing with sort of marketing sort of tactics, whether that be, we're talking about content marketing today, whether you're looking at sort of pay-per-click adverts, whether it's Facebook or Google, blogging, Pinterest, you know, YouTube, whatever the sort of particular tool you're using, if you don't know exactly who your customer is, in kind of and beyond the sort of basics, really what motivates them, what they're scared of, in effect, what's going to get them to get their credit cards out and hand the details over to you. Then Emma is a kind of deep expertise in that area. She has got a long list of university credentials, and is contemplating going back and doing a PhD. So there should be Dr. Emma.
Very important.
So in between running her business and raising the most adorable child. So I'm not a massive kid fan, but I've said the second her daughter is 16, put her on a plane to England because I want to hire a girl. So. So
she's nuts, by the way. That's why Christina wants her to come over, and she loves horses. So, yeah.
Just while Denise jumps back in, for those of you who've not been on Blab before, so you'll see there's a chat running down the right-hand side of your screen, which is there. And if you'd like to ask a specific question, if you type / and then a capital Q, it just flags it up specifically as a question rather than a comment. And then also, if later on in the Blab you're feeling brave and would like to come live and chat with us, then that would be great too. Hillary's proven that it's really not that scary. So Denise, can you hear us all okay now?
I can, yeah. I'm just having a slight problem with my main computer, so I'm just on my little laptop here. So all the notes that I've got written up, I've got.
Oh, you've got to wing it now. You've got to wing it now.
Yeah. So I'm just.
While Denise is having some technical trauma, I will give her a sort of X Factor style intro, and I'll really big you up so you've got more time to find your notes.
Thank you.
So Denise Willier, which is denisewillier.com, and Denise comes from a very strong corporate background. She was the CEO for a number of years of a big UK charity, which got a lot bigger while she was in charge. And Denise is very much, on the surface, her is about very strong financials, leadership, etc. She's also got a phenomenal marketing brain. She gave me one of my biggest ahas of the year. One absolute killer question, and I was like, okay, that's it. Kind of finger on the button. Super talented lady, again, with very strong academics. She spent time studying at Cranfield, which is one of the UK's leading sort of business institutes, and has got a CV sort of, which is probably longer than I've been born, to be honest, and is, again, massive depth of experience. So her sort of special ninja skill is taking businesses from that really horrible stage where you've gone just beyond startup, but you're still massively overwhelmed, doing lots and lots of work yourself, and can't quite see the sort of wood from the trees about how to really progress. If any of you have been following her blog, she's been sharing some results with some of her clients this year, and is quite phenomenal. There are very few people out there who are achieving the results she does in business with her coaching clients on a sort of one-on-one basis. She's looking all embarrassed now. I felt stressed that her notes are gone.
Is she blushing? Is she blushing?
I am. I can feel myself flushing.
Yeah. And as we were talking about someone earlier, she's just the right side of scary. So.
This is why we love Blab. You can say, well, that's kind of what you like.
She can't answer back because she's stressed.
This is the bigging me up bit, is it?
Yeah. That is when you're doing things like today, we're talking about content, and the whole sort of the last couple of weeks, I keep on saying, I'm going to write that blog post. I'm going to write that blog post. And then I get a Facebook message saying, it's not written. Put it up today. And she's right. There's no point arguing. And the easiest thing to do is make a cup of coffee and just write the damn blog post. So that's what I mean, scary, but in a really nice way. So
it's for your greater good, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. So that's us three ladies. And we all kind of have, so this is, I think, our 6th or 7th Blab.
I think we're on our 8th or 9th, are we not?
Then we might have a little celebration for our 10th. So
champagne might need to come out. Is everybody going to join us? Hillary, will you join us?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want me to keep talking? Or
yes, because my computer I've got a little circle whirling away whilst I try and bring up what I've got prepared. So yeah, just keep going.
We could ask everybody in the chat, has anybody in the chat, can they just tell us if they have any content marketing strategy at the moment? Is that something that they have? Have they thought about? Do they even know what it is? Is it something they've just heard as a term but aren't quite sure what it is? And just tell us, what you think about it. Maybe that might help. As soon as Denise is ready. And even Hilary, we've got you here. So what's your thoughts around content marketing? Do you have a strategy?
No, not currently, and I know I need to, and I can see Denise looking at me because she knows I need to too.
Like 3D.
It's one of those things that I do what everybody does, and I put it off. I find out things to do because the other things are sort of easier, although not more effective. But it's one of those things that I need to sit down properly, work it out, and get on with it. So one of the reasons I wanted to join you guys today was to get some inspiration so that I can make a good start in the, fresh in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor has asked, which is a great question, and I'm going to throw this straight back at Emma because I'm nice like that, which is because we're falling into the marketer's trick of just throwing out lots of jargon already, and we're only 10 minutes in, so slap on the wrist. So before we go any further, content marketing, what on earth are we talking about?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. And that's slap on the wrist for sure. Content marketing strategy, it's actually been around for quite a while. There's several books about it, actually. There's a website called the Content Marketing Institute. I highly recommend you guys go and have a look. Essentially what it is, when you're on all the different social media and you're creating graphics, you're creating inspirational quotes, you're writing blogs, you're creating podcasts, any content that you create, in other words, it's coming from your creation, is essentially content marketing. So it's something that you've created yourself. So again, it could be a podcast, it could be a video, it could be a blog post, it could be a range of, some people are really good at graphics and creating really, really super graphics with inspirational quotes, and they look super. And what happens is with content marketing is what you're doing is you're creating a sense of who you are, who your business is, the values of the business. And what that does is if you consistently market that out is you're creating brand awareness. So what's really important is the content marketing strategy to have it. And once you have it in place, to implement it is the second part of it, which is really obviously very, very important. And the third part of that is as a customer or a client receiving that marketing is that it's more cohesive. So for example, I typically would post out quite a lot of inspirational quotes, and I was meeting a client there last year and I'd never met her, in person before. She's from the States, based in Ireland, and interestingly enough, she said, "Oh, Emma, I feel like I know you." And the reason she felt like she knew me was basically because of all the content that I had been pushing out there on my, various social media, be it Twitter, be it Facebook, all of the different platforms that you would typically use. So I suppose really what you're doing is you're setting a certain tone, you're sharing your story. It's quite complex, even though I don't want to make it complicated, but there's so many different areas that you can use for content marketing. So for example, as I said earlier, a lot of people would use podcasting or video. More recently, we've got Periscope, we've got Blab here. I mean, essentially we're creating content here this evening whereby we're having a conversation around what is content marketing and how we can use it and implement it in our businesses. So that, and of course from this we can upload the Blab to YouTube, and we can use it again and again and again. So we are in the process of creating content, as you are, Hilary, with us here, that we can use and repurpose for later on. So it's really about, first of all, understanding, okay, well, what are you good at doing? Because, Christina's just saying that she doesn't particularly like doing blogging, even though I suspect she's a really, really good writer, but she potentially doesn't want to admit it, maybe, I'm not sure. But some people, they veer towards maybe writing, some people towards video blogging. There's lots of different mediums that you can use. But essentially, content marketing is where you are creating content to market your business out to the world. So I'm not sure, Denise is back in the room. So are we all set to go, Denise? I've just been explaining content marketing, probably in a roundabout way, giving people an idea of what it actually is. It sounds very convoluted, but it's actually really, really simple. But it's essentially where you're creating content where people can consume it. A lot of businesses now, what they're saying is, we're nearly becoming publishers, where you're, you know, using ideas, you're creating value for people. I saw an interesting case study where there was a pool company in the States, and they weren't a very big company. And in order to compete against the bigger guys, what they decided to do is have a very comprehensive content marketing strategy. So essentially what they did a series of blog posts and video posts around how to clean your pool, things to look out for when you're having a pool. Bear in mind, I don't have one, so I'm not quite sure exactly what the criteria are, but there's various criteria that you need in terms of the groundwork that you would need to do, the costings available. So they had a whole year full of content mapped out in advance each year. And what that did was that it separated them from the bigger guys. It was more niche. And when people were searching on Google, they were finding their website on the back of all of the content that they were creating. Equally, what was happening was people loved them for it, because it was answering all of their inherent questions in regard or in relation to, you know, buying a swimming pool, putting in a swimming pool, the maintenance of it. And they really went out of their way. So what they did was steadily increase their income, their revenue month on month, simply by having an excellent content marketing strategy. And that was, in a sense, their marketing strategy to go up against the big boys, was to stand out from the crowd by being helpful with their content marketing strategy. And I thought that was quite a good example, where in a really, really saturated industry where the big boys typically dominate, a smaller player could do that through simply a content marketing strategy. So I suppose the message here is it's worth doing, massively so. So I think Denise might be ready. Are you, Denise, to?
I am. Yes, I am. Yeah,
kick off
absolutely.
With content marketing there.
And actually, just before you dive in, we've got a question which I just want to flag up so we don't miss it in the chat. And it's something you might already be covering. So Lynn from Monster Moo Art is saying she's attempted to have a content strategy, but she's struggling with staying consistent. And she's still not entirely tied down to who her ideal client is.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help. So if you don't specifically talk about that, I'm going to scribble a note so we can kind of come around to it and kind of give you some specific advice then.
Yeah, I am going to pick that up, and then I'm going to bring Emma in as well on this, because it's that's Emma's particular zone of genius as well.
We've got a guest as well.
I know, my cat. Yeah. So I had everything so set
and Hillary,
up perfectly. Come on now.
Poor Hillary.
And it's like not, it's not happening. So shall I just get stuck into it then?
Yeah, go for it.
So what I thought I would talk about today is a bit what content marketing is, your content marketing goals and a mission statement, what kind of formats you might want to use, a bit about what the sort of content that your audience might want, about the role of social media in content marketing and the role of SEO as well, and some tools. Are you getting a kickback with me? Right. Is it better now?
No.
Oh no. I don't know what to do about it.
Don't get much kickback. I don't know, Hillary, are you getting much kickback?
Not from me, but from Denise I am. Christina and Denise are also seem to be audio only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't have any earphones with me. I think it's okay now. So, and then I was going to talk a bit about some of my favorite tools to help with the management of this, and then also just wind up with a bit of a discussion about some of the predictions for the future with regard to content marketing as well. So just, I suppose, just by way of background, content marketing is a key part of my marketing strategy. And that's because I've got my one-to-one business coaching practice where my primary way of getting clients is actually through networking and referral and, through my contacts. But I also have been developing an online business as well. And so to be able to do that, I really needed to develop a very good content marketing strategy. And to be honest, I found the world of content marketing quite a mystery to begin with. I absolutely love writing. So I kind of sort of when I set up my blog, I was like, okay, well, I'll just write some blogs and on sort of topics that I think, you know, would be interesting. How hard is that? And, you know, and I'll just, you know, promote them on social media, and, you know, and away we go. And I realized that there's a hell of a lot more to it than that. And so one of the first things I did was do a course on blogging with Carol Boskirk, who is on this blab. So we'll bring Carol in a bit, because she's got loads and loads of useful knowledge and insights, and she's a really, really great blogger. It's very much her thing. And so yeah, so I really struggled with it, and so then I kind of applied myself to studying it. So I'm going to give you the names of 3 people that I follow who have been phenomenally useful in terms of providing the kind of education around building a platform. Actually 4 people. So the first one is Michael Hyatt. So if one of you just wants to pop that just up in the
I'll put all the website links in the chat for you.
Yeah. So the first one is Michael Hyatt, whose business is basically around building out a platform, and he was the CEO of a massive publishing company as well. So really, really knows his stuff in that space. So he's somebody I've been following for the last 10 years. Then with regards to social media, I follow Kim Gast, and so she kind of meets all my kind of social media needs. When it comes to getting a bit more techie and geeky, which I try really hard to do, not to do, because it's not really my interest at all, but when I sort of feel the need to get a little bit techie, then who I go to is Ian Cleary, who has his business is called Razor Sharp Marketing. So I'll go to him for the kind of tech stuff, and he's very good on social media as well. And then my other 4th person is Amy Porterfield as well. So I go to her for some stuff too. So those are my kind of 4 good go-to people. And they and one of the reasons that I really like them, apart from the fact of the content they produce, is they really walk their talk. And so that really reflects in terms of the platform that they've built out as well. So that's kind of a bit by way of background. So I think Emma's already given you an explanation of what content marketing is. So I've got one here for you as well, which is that content marketing is the strategic marketing approach of creating and distributing valuable, relevant and consistent content to attract and acquire a clearly defined audience with the objective of driving profitable customer action, or I suppose sales, basically. And so the premise behind content marketing is that if, as businesses, we deliver consistent, ongoing, valuable information to our audience, to our potential buyers, then ultimately they're going to reward us with their business and with their loyalty. So that's the kind of the premise behind it. And content marketing is used by some of the largest organizations in the world, so from Procter & Gamble to Microsoft to Cisco, right through to small businesses and one-man sort of solopreneurs as well. And it's estimated that around 9 out of 10 marketers are using content marketing as a key strategy, irrespective of how big they are or the industry that they're in. So in terms of getting started with content marketing, the first place really to start is with your goals and your mission statement for it. And so because the content marketing strategy has got to add value to your business, and so in terms of raising your profile, in terms of building out your brand, in terms of generating sales. So you need to really kind of start off with those things, and that will then help you to build out your strategy. And so there's been some research done around this, that those businesses who've actually taken the time to document their content marketing strategy actually are far more likely to consider that they're effective at content marketing. They generally think that they're more effective in the way that they in the strategies that they use and their social media work, and critically they're able to justify spending a higher percentage of their marketing budget on content marketing. And I think that's because they've got clear goals and targets. It means that they're able to start to work out what their return on investment is on that as well. So I think one of the things that makes content marketing so tricky, or at least it does for me, is that with lots of aspects of running a business, you can find some kind of template or some sort of blueprint to follow. And I don't think it really works quite that way with content marketing, because it's really very bespoke to your business. And so, I think that makes it kind of harder than other aspects of marketing are. But there are some things that every content marketing strategy should have in common. So there should be, like I say, that you really should document what your strategy is. And if you're struggling to document it, then that's probably because you've not got a huge amount of clarity around what it is that you should be doing. So some elements that will be in your strategy is going to be who the audience that you're actually targeting, and so who are the people that are that you're going to be serving, and to bear in mind that you're not going to be unless you're a very niche business, you're not going to be serving just one audience. So when it comes to me writing my blog, I've got people who haven't actually started their business yet. I've got startups, and I've got people who are really established in business following me. So it's writing for those different audiences is very different. And so for most of you, I think that probably will be the case as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then is your brand story, because what you're trying to do through your content marketing strategy is to really demonstrate to your audience, to your followers, what your brand is, and to showcase your brand strategy. So, and then the other is your actual channel plan. So by that I mean, what channels are you going to use for your content marketing strategy, because there are just so many different channels. Got a question here about what or who do you think is the best example of content marketing? I would say in my space, definitely Michael Hyatt is I think is head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of his strategy. And if any of you've got any other thoughts about who you particularly admire and follow, then just pop them in the chat box. That would be really brilliant.
I'm just going to pop in an article which I probably won't have time to talk about in any detail tonight. But when we were saying, I think Emma mentioned right at the beginning that now a lot of people, businesses are starting to look upon themselves as publishers rather than sellers. And one of the best content marketing strategies I've seen in 2015 is Marriott Hotels. It's unbelievable what they're up to. I'm going to link, there's a great article that kind of goes into good depth. So if you're kind of looking for something to do a little bit later, once you've hopped off Blab or over morning coffee tomorrow, I'm just popping up in the chat. But it shows how a company that is so traditional and is selling hotel rooms, which doesn't necessarily lend itself instantly to kind of content marketing, has embraced it and thrown huge amounts of money. So Denise will know with her corporate background that getting budgets for things like social media marketing out of kind of chief financial officers is not an easy thing to do unless it's showing return on investment. So that's a good example, and I'd love if other people have got some, pop them in the chat, and so I can kind of expand my reading list for next week or so.
Yeah, we've had an example of Neil Patel, and I followed. He's somebody whose work I check out regularly as well. So he's great. It'd be great to have some examples from different kinds of industries as well, because the examples that I know are very much from the kind of business coaching space, and less so from other kind of industries. So Marriott that's a really, really great example of a business that you might not think would make such use of content marketing. So one of the things that you need to really think about is the format for your audience, and the format that you will use will in part be determined by the resources that you have available for your content marketing strategy, because there are certain things like blogging and podcasting and sending out email newsletters that people expect that to be consistent. So they expect to see your content show up at the time that you've said it's going to, whereas there are other channels where people don't expect that level of consistency. So it's really about what resources have you got to dedicate to it right now, and start with the one or two things that that you can make a commitment to and make it work for you, and then you can add on to it. So when I was starting out with my blog, I started off by just doing once a week doing a blog, and then I sent that out to my newsletter subscribers and put it up on some of the other platforms and mediums that there are. So just some ones for you to think about. So other places that you can syndicate your blog to. So LinkedIn, I think everybody now is able to publish posts on their LinkedIn profile. I think LinkedIn's rolled it out to everyone, have they? Yeah. Medium is another place that you can publish your content, and then also Reddit and StumbleUpon as well, all places that you can publish content to. And then once I'd kind of got into that habit of getting everything to done and together on a regular basis, I then added in another day. And so I now blog on 2 days a week, and I send out a newsletter twice a week as well. And I have a VA to help me as well with some of the activity around it, because one of the, I think, points to make is that content marketing is I think it's very time intensive activity. It takes me quite a good long while to write a blog. Probably takes me 2 to 3 hours to write a blog post, and then there's all the other activity around it as well. So you've really got to think about the time that you've got and be realistic about it, and what commitment you can make. And then it's also thinking about what sort of content does your audience actually want as well, and where does your audience hang out as well, because there are going to be channels that they particularly love to hang out on and that you're going to want to go to as well. So you want to say something here, Emma, about sort of creating content for your audience, and particularly picking up Lynn's question around who your ideal customer is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just even giving examples of other companies that have used very effective content marketing are Innocent Drinks. I don't know if you have them in the States, but Innocent is basically a smoothie. It's a company, and they're all about, creating smoothies from, obviously from fruit, and that there's no additives at all. So they've created a whole content marketing strategy around that, which has been really, really super effective. And essentially what's happened is as well, even when you buy their products, I mean, it's so child friendly as well, because, they've got all these kind of squiggly looking fruit on the packaging as well. So that's a really good example of a very effective content marketing strategy, whereby they're actually giving out recipes. they're giving ideas for different types of smoothies. They're asking people to, give recipes. Actually, here in Ireland, we have a soup brand called Cully and Sully. I don't know if it's actually gone into the UK or abroad. I don't believe so. But in actual fact, they crashed Facebook back in the day before Facebook was really being used as a marketing tool. And basically what they did was they asked people to give their soup recipes, and they asked them to share them out on Facebook. And again, this is kind of before we all got a little bit deadened to all the marketing going on Facebook. And they literally crashed Facebook for about an hour and a half because of the volume of recipes that were sent in. So that's an interesting one where they're using content marketing, where they're giving out recipes to their audience, understanding, that soup is really kind of the main staple of many people's winter diet in particular. People are into their health and their fitness. A lot of people would drink a lot of soup or eat a lot of soup, whichever way you say it. And, and they got people involved. So that's another super way of doing your content marketing, where you're understanding the customer and you're getting them involved in the whole process as well. So there's that buy-in. They believe that they're part of the company. They've got something to add to it as well. They've got something to add to the story. That's really important as well. So in terms of customer personas there, if you look at Innocent drinks, that's about understanding people who want to live better lifestyles in terms of what they eat, about being healthy, about also time. They're limited in time, that they don't have time to maybe go out and buy all the ingredients themselves. Therefore, they still want the best product, and they're more likely to turn to some product like Innocent Smoothies, whereby their whole marketing, their whole product is based around healthy smoothies that don't have any additives at all. So people feel like they're buying into that. So that's about understanding those different customers. It's also within that understanding, the customers in the sense of, like, I have a young daughter, so I frequently would buy smoothies for her on the basis, again, I don't have time to be always making them. However, I will buy them for her, and I'll send her to school with them as well. Again, based on the fact that they don't have any additives and all that sort of thing. So that's understanding kind of, I suppose, where you've got somebody that's health conscious, maybe that doesn't have children. You're looking at different demographics. A lot of teenagers now are more aware of, what they're eating and about being more healthy. And I think people in general, you've got older demographics. So it's about understanding within the context of one product, who are you targeting? Are there different markets that you need to look at? And in terms of your whole messaging, what do you need to say? So if you're looking at content marketing and the different types of recipes, obviously if you're targeting a younger market, you might make it a little bit more sassier, more kind of young, hip hop, all that sort of thing. Whereas if you're targeting somebody in an older market, you might have slightly different content marketing to support that as well. Then other examples, again, were the soup, the Cully and Sully. There's loads of them out there, but essentially what you need to do is understand a couple of things about your customer, not just their demographic as in their geographic location, where they live, but equally their social status, like their cultural, do they go out to the theatre? Are they very, very involved in health? Do they go on skiing holidays? Do they go on sun holidays? Just understanding people and who they are and what drives them. So somebody that goes on a sun holiday, now sweeping generalization here, but there's lots of people that go to Spain and different places, say in Europe, and they literally go there to drink solidly for a week and eat chips and, really bad kind of food and stuff. And they have a good time, but they're not really interested in smoothies or that type of lifestyle. Whereas maybe somebody that's more into scuba diving or something like that might be more inclined to be kind of interested in, innocent smoothies. And so it's about understanding the whole person or the persona in terms of understanding then who is your target market for writing your content, or who you're targeting the content at. So for example, obviously I'm B2B in terms of being a marketing consultant. So therefore I have to tailor a lot of the articles I would write in terms of what's helpful to people, what do they need to know in marketing? And sometimes I've got to ask questions. So that's the other side of it as well. It's not where you're doing a bit of investigative work, being a super sleuth, some people refer to it as. Nancy Drew, if anyone remembers Nancy Drew or ever read her books, I used to read Nancy Drew stories and I used to love them. So the whole point was delving into the history, delving into certain situations. But really, in terms of a business owner, you need to understand your customers, what drives them to buy. And when you understand, so go back to even to the example about the swimming pool. If you are going to buy a swimming pool and you're in the market for that, what do you need to know? And also, what bracket are you in? Do you want just a basic level pool? Do you want a mid-level range, or do you want a really high quality range? and the type of content you're aiming at those 3 different people is going to be very different. So really, I suppose they're just simple things. Look at cultural side of things, to look at their persona in terms of who they are, and just even to write down some characteristics, personality characteristics as well. Some very simple ones that you could look at. So yeah, so that can help in terms of your content marketing.
So yeah, some other ways of finding out what your audience wants. So one of them would be doing a survey to your target audience, to your list. And so just using something like Google Forms and just creating a very simple survey just to get some feedback on the content that you've been sharing and see what people's thoughts are, what they've liked, what they would like more of. So, you know, don't want too many questions because you don't want to make it too big an ask for people to fill in. But, and, you know, you could always offer a freebie in exchange for people completing it if you want to. So that's one way. Another way is just quite simply talking to people. So I've got people who I know personally who read my blog, and so I'll talk to them about what it is that they you know, what are they reading, what are they particularly enjoying on my blog. So I'm, you know, that's a bit more anecdotal, but it gives me some feedback. And then the other way of finding out what your audience like is through your Google Analytics. And so I'm going to bring Christina in a minute about the sort of things that you should be looking at in terms of your Google Analytics, and also using the tracking what's happening on social media as well, and using the analytics that you have there. So say, for example, with Facebook, if you are sharing out videos or blogs or podcasts and they're getting a high number of shares, that may not mean that they're converting into subscribers, but it's an indication that of popularity of content, and that people are resonating with what you're sharing. So those are kind of 3 places to go. And just because I'll forget about it if I don't say it now, is that one of the strategies that Amy Porterfield has, which I've just been modeling myself, is that on most of her blog posts, she has a lead magnet. So her blog is basically her podcast. So that's one form of content. She's then written out a piece of copy about that particular podcast as well. She's then had the podcast transcribed as well, so she's paid somebody to transcribe it, so she's got that there as well, so she's got another piece of content. And then she has a little I think they're usually like yellow box with a lead magnet that she's designed specifically for that piece of content. And so not all pieces of content lend themselves to that approach, but certainly on her blog they do. So I've been testing that out myself and seeing what would happen. So obviously that then ups the amount of time that I spend on my content creation as well, because I've now got to think about what would be a valuable lead magnet, got to create it and then do some kind of design in Canva as well whilst I'm at it, and have a little play around in Canva to create something that looks halfway decent. So that, you know, that's another time commitment. But I've only just started testing it out the last few weeks, and what I've noticed is that some of my blog posts people have clicked straight through and signed up for my free, you know, whatever my lead magnet was, and it's helped to make it very clear to me which what is kind of more popular, what is resonating with people, even just at this sort of very early stage. And you know, one of them has done much better than any of the others, and I got more sign-ups on my email list from one particular lead magnet in one day than I would normally get in a fortnight. So I was like, yay! So,
you there, Denise.
and bizarrely, it wasn't the lead magnet that I thought that everybody would be wanting to download as well. So, you know, there you go. So I just want to bring Christina in on Google Analytics, because that's her thing.
Before you do, just in case, we're talking about lead magnets. Do you want to just give a sort of, 20-second explanation of what is a lead magnet, in case someone's not come across that term before?
Okay, so it is something like a checklist or an ebook, or it could be a video, it could be an evergreen webinar. So a piece of content can be in a variety of different formats, which you give away to somebody in exchange for them giving you their email address. And then that means that you can then start to be in regular contact with them and start to build out and develop a relationship with them. So it's really, I've signed up for some people's lists, and on the basis of their lead magnet, and it's been quite a disappointment to me. So it's something that if you're going to build out a lead magnet, I do think you really have to think about, is this, is it good enough, basically? Because the last thing you want is to send something out to somebody and they're disappointed when they get it, because you've kind of, I suppose, you've kind of undermined the relationship just at the very early stages, and it's really hard then to recover it back again. Awesome. So will that do as an explanation?
So it's almost a little bit like I always think of it as a bit of a bribe. So
it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, of an email address to sort of allow you into the inbox, perhaps beyond a blog or a blab or YouTube. So Denise wants me to talk about Google Analytics, and before anyone dies off because of boredom, this is going to be a really quick whiz through analytics, and it's more for how do you measure if your content marketing is working? And the danger is, we were talking a little bit about this a couple of days ago, but it's really easy sometimes in business to procrastinate in what you think is a semi-productive manner. Hillary's looking guilty here. Your eyes go up then.
You're so mean.
I'm as guilty as anyone else here, that you can be, I'll just go and post in a couple of Facebook groups, or I'll send out some tweets, or I'll do something because I'm content marketing. And ultimately, where is it delivering benefit to your business? Now, this does depend on the exact sort of business that you're in. So Denise and I would have very different ways of perhaps measuring the kind of success of our content strategies when it came to, say, perhaps my e-commerce business versus her coaching business. Because hers is very much about, it's not as measurable. The beauty of, if you're running an e-commerce website, you can pull up your Google Analytics, you can look at your reports within there, and you can see for every transaction that's gone through your checkout, where did that originate from? So if you've had a blog post that you've written, we're off the back of Christmas, and then the next big thing on the sort of calendar, Valentine's Day. So for the gentleman, this is your 6th.
Oh my God! You seriously talking about Valentine's?
Yeah,
it's not
I'm mentioning Valentine's before 2016 is up. So so one of the things that we've been kind of busy working on the week before Christmas, believe it or not, is lots of gift guides for clueless guys to help them buy the perfect Valentine's Day gift. Now, if that particular blog post results in people going on and purchasing, then that will show directly within Google Analytics. Now, what is a little bit harder is seeing something like Denise's business, where someone might pick up the phone or make an online sort of appointment, and typically they've been building a relationship based on her putting a lot of content out, and the kind of transaction isn't exactly the same. So if you're not an e-commerce business, how do you start measuring? Well, you still can. And this is where Google Analytics is your friend. believe it or not, even if you hate it and get totally confused from the second you log in. And what you can go and do is look at the traffic that goes to your website. So what I'm hoping actually is, first of all, that every single person on Blab Tonight has got Google Analytics installed on their website. And if you haven't, put it on top of your list of New Year's resolutions. It's totally free of charge. It's not complicated to pop it on. If you're using a web developer or kind of freelancers, it's a sort of 5 to 10 minute job. Do not let them kind of charge you a humongous bill for installing Google Analytics. But what it will allow you to say if you've had 1,000 people who visited your site in the last month, it will show you in sort of broad buckets where that traffic's coming from. So if you're trying to decide, everyone who runs a business is phenomenally busy, and you're really trying to decide, okay, I need to get my content marketing nailed. So we had Lynn earlier saying, she's still a bit unclear about her strategy. And where on earth do you start? Are you on Blab? Are you blogging? If you're blogging, are you doing it? Are you writing? Are you doing it on, are you going to do video blogs on YouTube? Are you going to be posting on Medium? Are you on LinkedIn? And it goes on and on and on and on. And you need to be able to work out which of them is working. So if you've picked, say, 2, a maximum of 3, and say you're going to post up on LinkedIn, you're going to put something on Medium once a week, and then you're also going to be tweeting. What you can then do is look at that 1,000 people who visited your website and see where they've come from. Now, if 2/3 of the people on your website have come through from LinkedIn, then it shows that LinkedIn is a good place for you to be popping content on. And I would at that point say, well, actually, if you're putting content on once a week on LinkedIn, just straight away double it. If you've been spending 2 or 3 hours a week on LinkedIn popping content up, and you've been doing it for a long enough period of time, so I would say sort of you need to give yourself 30 to 60 days to test this. But if you're regularly popping content on LinkedIn and you're seeing no traffic at all from LinkedIn showing up in Google Analytics, then LinkedIn is probably not the best place for you. So certainly for me, when I'm for my digital marketing agency, LinkedIn is a fab place to be because it's full of business owners, and also then the sort of marketing directors and managers of companies that I work with, and it's a really, really appropriate place to be, popping content. E-commerce wise, waste of time on LinkedIn. For me personally, it'd be interesting. I know there's a few other people on LinkedIn, and certainly Trevor's been doing some really innovative stuff. And I've just had a look at Chris's site, which is morningglorycoffee.net. And he's there, which is really, he looks like he's got some really, really smart ideas for using Blab and to be kind of promoting the coffee side of things. And I don't know if you guys have ever found LinkedIn to be appropriate, but this all kind of comes back to knowing who your customer is, which is very much what we were kind of talking about right at the beginning. Because once you really know who your customer is, you can start shortcutting this kind of testing and experimenting, and you can start to guess of all, say, the 10 places you could be doing content marketing. In reality, it's probably more like 20 to 30. You start with an educated guess, but your Google Analytics gives you the kind of the instant feedback on if it's working or not. If you are a little bit more tech savvy and you're really going gung-ho with your content marketing, you can start identifying it. So Denise was talking about lead magnets, and where she's really encouraging people to sign up for various downloads on her blog. Now, what she can be doing is you can set up something in Google Analytics called goals, because you also, this is where it gets not complicated, but this is where sometimes it needs a little bit more thought, because the danger of statistics is you can sometimes be pulling the wrong information out of them. So for me, with an e-commerce website, I'm most interested in the people who are actually buying. And they're not necessarily that sort of bucket of people. I might have 60% of my traffic coming through from Facebook, but they are not the kind of core buyers. And perhaps only 20% of my traffic comes from Pinterest. But I know that someone who's come through from Pinterest is perhaps 10 times more likely to get out their credit card and shop than someone from Facebook. So it's a smaller pool of people overall, but they are higher quality kind of potential leads and customers. Does that make sense to everyone? I've not gone too too geeky.
No, I think it's a great point, and particularly for Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a great one. I think I saw a stat there a while back where somebody that's buying from Facebook, I think the average was around the $100 mark.
Yeah.
And if you were buying from Pinterest, it was double that.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen it more recently, but the idea being that Facebook is so busy right now. There's so many ads being thrown at people that they kind of have a block against it, like a mental block. They're filtering out all these ads, whereas when you're on Pinterest, there are no ads. So they're starting, I think, have they started them yet? No, they haven't launched them, particularly in Europe, they haven't anyway, but they are looking at doing that. But at the moment, you can be on Pinterest and you can browse, and you're in this kind of euphoria, as in you're looking at some beautiful pictures. So you are in more of a mindset to say, oh, that looks beautiful, or that looks really fantastic, and you're more likely to buy it because there isn't that huge filter towards buying. I think that's one of the reasons why people are spending a lot more from Pinterest, plus the really, really high quality pictures. And people are going to Pinterest, because it's their dream wedding, their dream whatever it is that they want to do, their dream house or whatever it is. So they're more likely, it's aspirational, so they're more likely to do that. So I think it's interesting, isn't it, though, in terms of using that as part of your content marketing strategy, though, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point you've made there, Emma. And not just thinking about the kind of psychology behind your buyer, but how you can take the same person and their sort of state of mind can be quite different depending on where they are on the web. Mm-hmm. So exactly as Emma said, Pinterest is so perfect for kind of purchasing because people are using it as a, it's kind of like mood boards, dream boards, that they're pinning mm-hmm. ideas about purchasing. And so if you're involved in, I'd imagine actually you get trouble with the jam, but Pinterest for you must be like a playground because it's, if you're in crafting, homeware, kind of retail.
I've just seen just an interesting one there, Christina. I just want to bring it in if you don't mind. One of the guys here, I think that's on, I'm just trying to see, is it Steve? No, one of them, he does beer, or he's a creator. Don, I think it is, creator of the largest beer clubs in the US. And I think drinks companies are very interesting in that, particularly here in Ireland, we're known for our whiskey. Obviously in Scotland they are too, but there's beers and whiskies, and if you're looking at situational kind of content marketing, where particularly for whiskies and whatnot, Christina, I know you like to have a little bit of whiskey or two. You might see different recipes that you could use, or different drinks or mixes that you could put with your whiskey. So I know in Ireland in particular, a lot of the drinks companies would put a phenomenal amount of money into content marketing. And what they're doing is, these promotional videos, they're maybe not writing blogs all the time, but they're being creative in how they're getting the message across. Even they're using comic strips. There's multiple ways that you can use content marketing. And kind of what Christina is saying, like you can really use it in a very interesting manner in order to get across your message to your target market. But I suppose it's about understanding the customer in terms of what they would like to have potentially, and that can be helpful to them, or fun, or inclusive, or I don't know. Have you seen the whiskey ones or the beer? Some of the beer marketing can be really.
It was interesting this year, Bailey's for Christmas. So I'm not sure is Bailey's a big drink in the States? So only the Americans on Blab, but you are familiar with it. It's an Irish a whiskey cream liqueur, and it's a really sort of traditional, especially at Christmas time. For them, it's a really, really big marketing sort of season. And traditionally, it's been very much the kind of adverts as you expect, very sort of brand-led, bottles of Bailey, perhaps some sort of celeb endorsement. And this year, they've been really pushing a cocktail. They partnered up with one of the big supermarket chains, the Tesco, which would be, similar to Walmart in the States. So a national supermarket chain. And they're running the adverts across social media, and this straight away hooked me because it was Bailey's and coffee, so it was some sort of espresso-based kind of cocktail. And
is that an Irish coffee? No, or
well, they had. I think there were a few other ingredients in it, but they were very much sort of, rather than here you need to buy a bottle of Bailey's, it was, here's a cocktail you can make with a bottle of Bailey's. And by the way, if you click on this, we will automatically add all the ingredients to the shopping cart for Tesco.
They're helping you to buy more.
Yeah, that kind of really seamless, and you know, and it was presenting it on a plate. So again, Trevor's saying we've got a jam recipe website with dynamic ingredient calculators. Yeah, which is fab. You know, it's just making it really easy, and it's again knowing your target market. If you sell jam jars, by default, 99% of your customers are interested in making jam, unless there's some creative uses for jam jars that I've never come across.
I've seen an interesting one here. Did you see the? Sorry, Donald here, or Don. He's saying that they did a collaboration. This is with the beer, with a soap maker recently for a beer soap. I'm not quite sure how beer soap works, and I was just asking him in the chat how did it work out, and he said it was sold out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an interesting collaboration and something completely different. Yeah, and somebody's saying the Baileys is big in the States of as well. Hashtag Orphan Girl is the next big thing. I haven't heard of that one actually. Or bourbon cream liqueur, I guess. Yeah, that's another one. But it's just interesting, isn't it? The different types of strategies that people use.
Emma, I just wanted to jump in because I'm babysitting my nephews who are 12 and 9 and was sat down.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. And we sat down last night to watch a Lego documentary called The Brickumentary.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if anybody's seen it, but to your point of understanding what your customers want, I recommend that everybody watches it, because Lego, which had been going strong since for most of the past half of the last century, started to lose customers around 99, 2000, and by 2004 was looking like they were going to go under. And it's because they became arrogant in terms of what they thought the customer wanted. And they weren't actually paying any attention to what people were buying. And they stopped focusing on that one brick that was so popular and started going in all sorts of other directions. And it wasn't until they realized that actually the people who were buying Lego wanted the pieces that fit together. They didn't want to buy ready-made bits or bits that only required you to put together 2 or 3 pieces. People who were buying Lego wanted you to buy the big kits. And the other thing that they didn't realize was that the number of adults who were actually playing with Lego was enormous. And people had started creating their own conferences. So you've got BrickCon, which are these huge things that adults go and participate in. Once Lego started actually looking at how their customers were using the product, and they went back to their basics and then started expanding the basics, and of course they went from 2004 to now, which is 11 years, exploded yet again. But it's really interesting, and they recognized it. They said, we got arrogant, we stopped listening to the customer, and it almost meant that they went out of business. For anybody who likes Lego, has children to entertain, or wants to find out more about marketing, it's a really good hour and a half's worth of TV watching.
The Brickumentary, that sounds good. And it's a really good example. I think the Barbie dolls recently are taking a bit of a resurgence as well. They're kind of having, instead of, the original big boobed Barbie and whatnot, they're trying to make her a little bit more funky, a bit more individualistic. There's a slight backlash against all of that kind of cookie cutter sort of woman, which of course doesn't exist, or photoshopped woman. So it's interesting that the marketing companies or marketing departments within companies are starting to realize this. So again, like you're saying, Hilary, it's so true. Sometimes the companies do become arrogant, and this has been shown in B2B companies, B2C. I saw a very interesting case study from company called that they do elevators, and they did something similar as well. So they, through content marketing, they actually were able to amp it up and really, really help their customers to understand through kind of like that documentary style, or renewing people's interest. Because another side can be interesting as well. And I thought when there was the whole crash in kind of 2008, apparently there was a whole trend towards things from the 70s and 80s, because people were looking for something that was, kind of nostalgia. They were looking for something nostalgic. So they were looking for something to grab onto because the bottom had fallen out of their world, so to speak. So apparently there was a resurgence of brands from the 80s and 70s because of that. But again, if you understand that as a business owner, you understand, okay, well, now it's time to, that Cabbage Patch doll, do any of you remember that? that kind of came back out again this year, and it's kind of really funny, things that you would have seen as a child suddenly re-emerging in another guise, or re-emerging or remarketing it again 20 and 30 years later. But part of that is nostalgia, but equally it's about understanding the customers, because it's already well known. Like, for example, if any of you have seen the Milky Bar, do you know the Milky Bar? You know, the particular type of chocolate, and they did a fantastic job marketing it for years and years, and then got complacent as well, like Hilary's describing. And they've done a series of promotions over the last probably 5-6 years. It's not quite back where it was, but they're doing their damnedest to rejig it through content marketing, through videos, through reaching out to people. So I think like it's a really good example. So thank you, Hilary.
Awesome. Well, I can see we've got so many sort of new faces in that just before I hand everything back over to Denise, I'm just going to quickly reintro the ladies who are with me today. So we have got on my, I feel like I'm in Gladiators here, on my left, we've got Emma Darcy, so from emmadmarketing.ie. Emma is a marketing strategist with a kind of special interest in consumer psychology. And then below and sort of leading the content today is Denise Willier. Denise's background is as a CEO. She's now kind of joined, luckily actually, kind of made her skills available to the sort of smaller business community who've got aspirations to be much bigger, and works as a business coach. And so she's talking about content marketing, whereas Emma and I are both full-time marketers. Denise is someone who, she's originally used to having a very big team to kind of delegate stuff to, and now has to juggle doing her content marketing with some help from her lovely VA, but also around doing her actual job, which is probably the reality for more, for most of the people on the blog tonight, where unless you've got the luxury of being a full-time content marketer, all this stuff has got to be squeezed in somewhere. So I'm a professional marketer, but I know this is a challenge. So I've got a digital marketing agency, and it's always easy to roll it out to clients and say, this is what you should be doing. But we've also got 3 e-commerce businesses of our own, and I know content marketing is always, I think that's the first to get bumped off the to-do list, just because it's never urgent, but it is totally necessary. So I'm thinking hard and scribbling notes. So just before I hand back over to Denise, we've also got Hilary joining us, who is a guest on the call, and Hilary is kind of giving us is a business owner and is pondering hard on her content strategy for 2016. Has thrown lots of questions our way. We've got a few questions that I'm going to throw Denise's way. And the first is from Michael, who says, what's the biggest nugget you can give to people just starting out with their content marketing strategy?
Right, I'll think about that one and see which one comes to me. But I'm just going to actually just pick up Carol's question here about how I get everything done. And the key thing that I do is on Mondays, I don't do any meetings with anybody. And so that's my day for working on my business. So on business development and on my marketing as well. So that's when I write my blog posts and do some work on my social media and so on. And I do it intentionally on a Monday, because it's about putting my business first, as over and above anybody else's. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but basically if I don't invest the time in my own business up front, at the beginning of the week when I'm not so tired, then by the end of the week, and if I come sort of like Friday and I'm a bit more tired, I'm not going to be quite as productive on my own business as I would be at the beginning of the week. So that's basically how I do it. Is I have protected time on a Monday, and so it's very unlikely that you will get to do a meeting with me during the daytime. On a Monday. I mean, we do a blab in the 3 of us are doing a blab regularly on Monday evening, but that is at 9 o'clock here in the UK. So, and also I do also work quite a lot of hours as well. So it's, I work a lot more than a 40-hour week. So that's kind of how I do it.
stuff here.
But also sort of that leads me on to onto the sort of like my sort of next areas. So just one of the things, this might sound obvious, but sometimes it's a mistake that people have made, is that when you're building out your content marketing strategy, your home, you have got to own the home for it. And so it's no good building it out on LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else, because you don't own that real estate. So the real estate that you own is your website or your blog. And so that's where you want to be the home for your content. And then it's really thinking about the resources that you have available to put into your content production. So I got to a point in my business where I could, I was able to bring in a VA, and I'm not sure if she's on the call today or not, Zara. And so if you are, then say hello to us. And Zara has a very strong background in marketing, and so there have been tasks that I've been able to give to her to assist me with my content marketing that I have absolute confidence that she's able to undertake for me. And then the third thing is about how the channels that you use to communicate your content marketing strategy. So that is going to a large extent going to be using social media to distribute and get the word out. And so I use a combination of automation and showing up as in terms of the way that I run my content, I run my social media strategy. And so that's what enables me to appear to be as active as I am on social media. So whilst I'm just thinking about it, I'll share out my key tool, my favorite tools. So when it comes to my social media, so my sort of primary objective, my sort of primary aim with my social media strategy is to direct people to my blog. Now, obviously, if I shared about my blog all of the time on social media, then people would get very bored and they'd get very turned off by it. So I have other content that I schedule out on my social media. But one of my key objectives is to get people to be interested in taking a look at my blog, and then hopefully signing up to my newsletter, so that then we can continue the relationship. And I also have a Facebook group as well, where the free Facebook group that where I've got a community of business people that I support. And so the tool that I use, my sort of primary tool, is Meet Edgar. And if I didn't use Meet Edgar, I personally would probably be using Social Oomph. But because I had all my content already built up on Edgar before I really looked into Social Oomph, I've stuck with it. And also because it suits, for me, it's very, very simple to use. It's probably a little bit more expensive than some of the other platforms, but not massively so. But what I really like about it is that I can see visually on a schedule exactly what content I've got going out when, and so it makes it very, very easy for me to plan my content. And so that's my favorite tool. And so all of my so I have a lot of content scheduled out into Edgar so that it goes out at different frequencies. So with Facebook, I've got stuff going out 6 to 8 times a day on my Facebook page, because I've got people from all over the world, different time zones following me, so I need that kind of spread of content. LinkedIn, I've probably got 6 times a day going out because it doesn't move so fast. And Twitter, I've probably got something going out 30 to 40 times every day scheduled out as well. And then what I do in between whiles is that if so that content is what I'd call evergreen content, and is content that's kind of going to have a longevity about it. But if I say, you know, I'm reading sort of news articles, blogs, whatever, and come across more topical content, then what I do is I use Buffer to schedule it out, because what Buffer allows you to do is to space out, say if you're tweeting, it allows you to send out your tweets through the day at times that you've scheduled out, as opposed to them just all going out in one big lump when as you've been looking at stuff. And I do the same thing as well with if I'm replying to tweets and active on Twitter, is rather than like there's a whole load of me sort of like block of me tweeting in one go, I use Buffer to schedule it out so that it's spread out through the day. And then that, you know, that I suppose it basically gives the perception that I'm sort of active on social media more than I actually am. And then there's the kind of interaction. There's another tool that I just want to share with you as well, called CoSchedule as well. So that is it's a tool that I have used. I'm not using it at the moment. I may well go back to it, and that's really great in the sense that it integrates. I've got a WordPress blog, so it integrates with my WordPress blog, and so if I then want to share out content to the different platforms at specific times, and I might want to, I have a blog post, and I want to remind people about it. I might want to ask people questions about what they've done in response to a blog article that I've written or whatever. Then CoSchedule is a really good way of getting that content out. And then I see Danette's also mentioned Post Planner as well. So I don't use Post Planner at the moment for social sharing because I've got Edgar. But depending on if they were to get the API for Pinterest or Instagram, then I would be then I would definitely be interested in using it. But the way in which I use Post Planner is to work out what content is viral at the moment, what's really popular and what's being shared. But that's not really on the content marketing space. That's much more about other social media stuff that I would be sharing.
You've got quite a few questions, Denise, so I'm just gonna make sure you're having a look at them. So let me scroll back, because we've got Michael asking you, how the heck do you come up with all that content? And then it kind of leads on, and there's another question here saying, is it unique content, and is any of it repeated during the day?
So with Edgar, so what you're able to do with Edgar is it has a library. And so you can build up a whole load of content and then you can apportion it to different categories. So quite often the sort of social media experts will talk about buckets. So for example, one of the things that Edgar allows you to do is, say I've gone on, been looking on somebody's blog and I see some really great articles in it and think, my audience are going to really love it. And so I'm going to share this, and it's evergreen content. It's not highly topical. What Edgar allows me to do is, it's got a little thingy. I don't know what you call it. I've got a little octopus on the top of my toolbar, and that then enables me to save it into whichever category I want to in Edgar. And so it means that I can very easily, as I'm going along, add content into Edgar and keep it, and build it out. So for example, I've got another category, which is questions. And so what I just basically did was I just came up with about 100 questions to ask people, and I just uploaded it into Edgar. It was a very boring thing to do, but then it was done. And so at the times that I've set my scheduler to post questions to Twitter or to Facebook or whatever it is, it will draw from that particular category, from that library of content. And so because I've got a lot of content in each of the libraries that I've built out over time, the chances of somebody seeing it for a while are quite limited. And then there was a question about do I use Hootsuite? I'm signed up to Hootsuite. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit funny, but I just find it easier, frankly, to just go into the different platforms myself and have a look around and just deal with it there and then. But I think probably because I use Buffer, that's why I don't so much need to use Hootsuite.
So I'll just jump in here and say that because I was originally using Hootsuite and changed to, certainly my agency, we use Sendable a lot, because it's sort of a bit of a kind of hybrid that you can do a lot of scheduling content and also have a whole series of things on repeats. So things like tweets that are regularly repeated would be sign up to our newsletter and get a free voucher, or kind of follow us on Pinterest, etc., mixed in. Hootsuite I still use a lot personally, and find it great, particularly for Twitter, because you can carve it up into so many different streams. And if there's anything that's especially around live events, Hootsuite would always be somewhere I jump on. So back on earlier this sort of, when was it now? 2 months ago, seems a long time, we had some products featured on the BBC Apprentice. So I knew then that while that programme was going out live, there would be a massive amount of chatter on Twitter. And so there was a whole series of hashtags. And so on Hootsuite, they were kind of carved up into like little individual streams, so that we could be following multiple hashtags. There were all discussion around, and obviously anyone mentioning the programme and the products were featured, we could just straight away tweet them back links to the e-commerce website. So for me, I love Hootsuite for Twitter, and for really breaking, I love using Twitter lists and using the kind of saved searches for hashtags or particular terms. And so it's really a case, sometimes you need to play with a few different tools. And actually one thing that I always think as a rule, because I love tech shiny toys, so I'm having to so resist at the moment. First of all, we have Black Friday and then Cyber Monday, now all these Christmas sales. It's like, no, I don't need any more tech gadgets that I can strap on to myself. I don't need any more software tools. And so sometimes is literally write a list of, just get out a paper and pen, and what do I need this to do for me? So Denise has talked about like scheduling content that then repeats. If that's something that's important for you, write that down. If you need to be able to post across lots of different times of day, it's really valuable. It's difficult if you're based here in the UK. I mean, actually, it's not too bad, because the kind of world time clock was based around London, and we are sort of at the centre of the international dateline. But you still, if you're trying to post and target people in America on the West Coast after work, then that is crazy time of day here in the UK. So scheduling can make it can make you look really good for clients as well, because they think that you are actually up at 3 a.m. posting tweets for them, and don't realise that you've got a scheduler. So just be really clear about what exactly it is you need. Do you need your team to be able to work on it as well? Do you need to be able to respond to all your messages in one place? So I like Sendable again, because it will pull through Facebook page and message inboxes. It will pull through tweets, direct messages. So every single thing that needs responding across social media, whether that literally just be someone saying, thanks, I really enjoyed your blab last night, or a customer who is having an absolute fit over some problem with an order. It's all there in an inbox, the way you'd perhaps have an email inbox. But if that's not something you need, then there's no point paying for something like that. And don't pay for extra tech that you don't need. So just because Sendable is perfect for me, Denise really likes Edgar. They're not the cheapest options out there. So something like Hootsuite it's very simple. It's inexpensive. It's quite, it's easy because you can install it on your iPhone or have it on your iPad, which is another. So for kind of content marketing, I work with a lot of professional riders, and they're so strapped for time. And one of the things I always say to them is, anytime you're in a queue anywhere, send a tweet. You know, so if you're in the bank and you're getting really, really annoyed because there's 5 people in the queue in front of you and they're always going to spend 5 hours because they've got some really complicated question, or there's really sweet old ladies who, you know, it's going to take half an hour for the bank teller to deal with them, you can whip out your phone and deal with some social media. So I'll hand you guys back to Denise, but again, just don't get too bogged down in the tech. Don't pull up in the shiny objects. And we had a question right at the beginning from Branding Cubed Michael about what's the biggest nugget you can give to people. And I'd say really it's actually just getting started, which is one of those really annoying things that people like myself say. But sometimes it is that simple, you know, to do not spend the next month researching the perfect tool to be doing this. Just put some content out there. Even, you know, go old school, log directly into Facebook or Twitter and get some stuff out there, and then look at the tools to speed it all up.
So I'm going to move on and talk a little bit more about how I use each of the channels as part of my content marketing strategy. So if I stick with Twitter, I'd be lying if I said that I liked Twitter. I don't, in some ways, I really don't see the point of it. But I'm very much of the view that if my, if my audience is somewhere, then I've got to be there, and I just basically have to suck it up. And what Twitter is very good for is driving content to your blog posts as well. And so the way that I do it is I have, in Edgar, I have 2 buckets, if you like. I've got one bucket of kind of all my blog content, so that all of the blogs that I've written are going out on a regular basis, and they're being recycled. And then I also have another bucket that is blogs that I've written recently that I want to give more of a profile to, and want to really sort of actively try and move traffic towards as well. So Twitter for me is very much about is a means of driving traffic to my blog. One of the tools that I'm going to start using later this month, because I've had really good reports about it, is a tool called Social Quant. And what that is really good at doing is helping you to build out your following. Because one of the things that I've found really difficult, and I think probably most people do, and it's a reason why people are struggle to get going on Twitter, is how do I actually grow my following? And so I was doing it myself, in the sense that I had what's called a follow-unfollow strategy. So I'd follow a bunch of people that are in my sort of target audience, and then I'd give it a few days, and if they didn't follow me back, I'd unfollow them because of the ratios that there are in within Twitter. But obviously that's quite time consuming. There was something that I tested out called Manage Flitter, and that does that for sort of like automatically for you, and I didn't find that the results were any better than what I can do myself. So I stopped that, but I've heard very, very good reports about Social Quant and the results that people have got in terms of really building up their Twitter following, and a relevant Twitter following as well. So if you can you just pop that into the chat box as well about the reference to Social Quant. So that's really how I use Twitter. LinkedIn, I use it to publish my blog posts too. And so that exactly the same content that goes onto my blog, I post onto LinkedIn, and I share my content using Edgar onto LinkedIn as well. So I'm using it in that sense to try and drive traffic from LinkedIn to my blog. And just a sort of word, because for some people, a couple of people I've spoken to recently, haven't got the money for a website at the moment. And so what I've said to them is build out your content on LinkedIn, and create your posts on LinkedIn. You can always then put that on your blog when you're good to go with that, but just start on LinkedIn, because it's free and it's better than nothing, and you can get going and start sort of like just building up the habit, finding your voice, finding out what reaction and what works for you. So that's how I use LinkedIn. And then Facebook, my Facebook page in a similar way as well. So in terms of having blog content going out to my Facebook page. Someone asked specifically about the best times to post. There's all kinds of different views about that, and that depends on your business. I post between 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the evening. So it kind of covers a lot of the time zones, different time zones there are. But I decided that I didn't want to look like a sado that was on Facebook after 10 o'clock in the evening. So that's my kind of cut-off point. And I kick off the morning here with some sort of inspirational quote as well. So there's a question about, do you really need a website too? Yes, you do need a website. And the reason for that is because you own that real estate. And whereas, LinkedIn, you don't own it. So if, for some reason you were to get locked out of LinkedIn and were able to use it, you wouldn't, it's the point that Donald's making there is you don't build a house on somebody else's property. It's exactly the same, exactly that principle. So yeah, absolutely, you must have a website. And then the other thing that I do with Facebook as well is I boost my blog posts as well. And so, I mean, there's sort of like different views about whether you should boost your blog posts or whatever. And I don't spend very much on it, but I just like a small budget. And each time I publish a post, and I boost it to the audience that I've identified as kind of being my target audience. And so that helps to take direct traffic to my website and get me some sign-ups as well on to my email list. And I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it's basically because the way in which Facebook works, it's so hard to get any sort of organic reach on Facebook. Really, unless you've kind of built out a massive profile and a super engaged audience that really interact with your stuff. But if you're kind of relatively new to Facebook, it's just so hard that to get any kind of traction organically. So that's why I use a combination of organic and paid as well. And my other, I don't know, it's my most golden nugget, but it's something that I didn't do when I first had my blog, which is my Facebook pixel. And so I had to ring Christina up and say, where do I find this pixel thing, and where do I put it, and what do I do with it? But basically, I've got my Facebook pixel. And I every blog post that I write, my Facebook pixel goes on it. So do you want to explain why I wanted to do that?
Yeah, sure. So for some of the questions we've had where people are saying about, do you need a website in this day and age, and beyond the kind of owning your platform, and sort of, especially on Facebook, you're very much at their whim, kind of rules, etc. For those sort of banning profiles, blocking ad accounts, etc. This week I'm having problems on YouTube that I'm seemingly getting some of my Blab videos flagged up as violating community standards, and videos just being yanked down. And so owning your own, your website as your central hub for everything is smart from a protecting your assets point of view. But the other big reason for doing it is what Denise has touched on, which is there are some amazing marketing tools that are available to you, but only if you're sending people to your own website. And this is retargeting advertising, which is what I seem to be talking about on every single Blab at the moment, because it is so important for almost every single business in 2016. So kind of quick one-on-one, retargeting advertising is stalker ads. So if you've been doing any Christmas shopping on Amazon earlier this month, what you will have noticed is that if you go on Amazon and you don't buy a product, you then see that product everywhere you go across the web until you finally crack and go and buy that shiny tech toy for yourself. And you can do this for your own business. And the beauty of it is you can very much kind of filter out. So for those of you who are dealing in, well, actually, whether it's business to business or business to consumer, but your traditional sort of sales funnel, where you think of, you've got your leads and you're qualifying your leads and you're perhaps deciding, say if we've got here like a car dealership and people walk in and it's deciding, are they after a slinky, a little two-seater sports car? Is it a businessman looking for a saloon? Is it a family looking for an SUV? Is it perhaps someone who's very eco-conscious and looking for a kind of hybrid? And you're then going to show them very different products depending on, it's no point trying to sell someone a 4x4, kind of a Ford, like great big pickup truck, if what they're after is a little Mazda MX-5. It is a complete waste of time. When you're doing sales face-to-face, it's very easy to ascertain what the kind of individual is after. The beauty of online is we do have the ability to do this too, through you're popping cookies on people's computers whenever they're visiting your website, and you can segment up people who visited your site and then follow up with them by showing them adverts, but only for certain products. So again, so for my e-commerce sites, if someone's come in and they're looking at a particular brand of jewelry and they've not bought, they will then see adverts which only pertain to that particular brand. So if they're interested in that jewelry brand, it's potentially a waste of money to be trying to show them either a completely different jewelry brand or t-shirts, because they've already, expressed an interest in that particular things. So when it comes to content, you're doing it exactly the same. So I tend to, on my agency site, split things into 4 different silos. So whether it be people are interested in websites, they might be interested in social media, they're interested in pay-per-click, and through a whole kind of series of tagging. If you've visited a blog post to do with social media, you're popped in the social media bucket, and you will then see follow-up adverts that pertain to social media. And now if I'm putting that blog post about perhaps Periscope up on LinkedIn, it's building awareness of my business and establishing credibility and expertise, but I've not got the ability to follow up because LinkedIn doesn't allow me to kind of stalk people around their platform in that way. So, kind of retargeting is a massive topic. I think I'd struggle to, even in a kind of completely dedicated blab, but, it's worth having a good look around, and it's yet another reason why content is important, why it's important, to drive people back to your own website with your content. First of all, so you can retarget them full stop, but you can also use your content as a way to start sort of pre-qualifying leads and showing them very, very relevant follow-up content. So if this is a completely new concept to you, there's a lot there. I've got a question actually here then from Trevor saying, how do you switch off the remarketing once a purchase has been made? They just kind of pop into a different remarketing campaign. Again, this would depend very much. So if someone with the agency has bought a website, I'm unlikely to be able to sell them another website a week later. It's not unheard of, actually. We've had someone who has straight away, actually just last week, kind of signed a whole one site and they immediately like, okay, we're a slightly different business. Can you do one? But with e-commerce, definitely, because the goal there is always to get repeat purchases. So if you're a business that really thrives on this, other great examples would be hairdressers. Mine, I've got some shiny new nails today because my hairdressers are very on the ball and sent out a Merry Christmas 20% off voucher on Christmas Day that had to be used before the end of February. So rather than me waiting 6 weeks to go back in there for a haircut, they've got me back in 10 days later. So I wouldn't switch off my remarketing. I might then focus on a different but related product. So if someone has bought a jewelry range, I know that people who like that particular jewelry range also like another handbag range. And I'll kind of flip back and forth. So it's kind of what we said the whole way through the blab here, which is really about knowing your customers. What you tend to find, and I've been really not suckered in, but there's someone who I follow and rate as one of the best in the business out there, which is a guy called Ryan Deiss when it comes to digital marketing. And I managed to go from spending $7 on a Black Friday webinar to spending another $5,000 within the week on great training content, because for me, investing in education for myself and my team is the most important thing we do. Beyond the kind of biggest spend is on marketing, second biggest part is always on education. And so just because someone has bought from you recently, there's a tendency to then be like, oh, okay, well, they've bought from me, and always focusing on new leads coming in. If you can close down that reorder period, and it might be actually that's, you've sold someone jam jars, and they perhaps, unless they're going on a jam binge, admittedly, maybe you're not going to sell them another 50 jam jars 2 days later, but you may very well be able to sell them an ebook of jam recipe guides or some related products, decorative jam jar spoons, etc. And once someone's done one transaction with you and they've got confidence in your products, things turn up. And that's exactly the same. When I'm saying product delivery, that's not just talking about physical products coming through the post. This is as much for service providers, in fact, even more actually, because of the cost difference. If someone's worked with you once or purchased from you and enjoyed the experience, they're primed to go again. So that's kind of slightly off topic, but retargeting is, to me, a crucial part of a content marketing strategy. I've not really got time to go in any kind of detail. But you definitely use it, and don't be afraid to continue retargeting people who've recently bought from you, because they're normally the easiest to get to repurchase.
Can I just interject for a second? Because oftentimes people forget the lifetime value of a customer. Where you like that whole idea of upselling, because it's easier. Not that you have to be constantly selling to people, but it's easier. If somebody's already worked with you or bought from you, they're more likely to buy from you. Again, that whole know, trust, and like you. I can't think of the stat off the top of my head in terms of, it's really, really high. If somebody's already worked with you or they've bought from you, they're, again, much more likely. It's much easier to get to resell to them than it is to get somebody new. And I think the lifetime value of a customer is something that's completely overlooked in terms of, for example, even if you have somebody that's only spending, be it, if you have a coffee shop, even $10 a week, over a year, that's over $500, and just looking at the upsells from there, and equally with any other products or services that you have, I think the lifetime value of a customer is is a point that you need to understand. And equally, I think Trevor brought up an interesting point there, in terms of not overdoing it. And I suppose that's where you're saying that when somebody's bought, Christina, is that right, that it goes into a different campaign? So I think that's important to understand as well. But I think it's, when people buy from you, they're absolutely, like if I go and I buy a part for my car and they're selling something else, I'm more likely to go and buy something else from them as well. It's the whole idea when you go even grocery shopping. If you go up to the counter, like there's all these like chocolate and all these little, items that you're more likely to buy when you get to the counter. So it's been done multiple times, particularly in the retail industry. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't do that, as marketers or, for other products and services as well. But I think I just wanted to interject there that the lifetime value of a customer is completely an underrated so something that we all need to look at in terms of our marketing and our business strategies, and particularly with content marketing as well, because you're repurposing content for them. So they're constantly seeing your brand and therefore they're more likely to buy from you. But if you understand the customers as well, the upsell that you're putting in front of them is related to what they've already bought. And it's not that you're kind of paying them off, but it's like you're literally giving them something that could potentially be of interest to them.
Okay, I just wanted to see if Carol wants to hop onto the seat there, because Carol is a phenomenal blogger and producer of different content, and so she's also got a question that she put up there as well. So I'm hoping you're going to hop onto the open seat there, and we can just bring you in. There she is. Yay! So do we need to do something? We have to allow her in?
Yeah, I've just let her in there.
Right, okay. Cool. So Carol had a question just while she's coming in around her nephew bought her a whole load of fake followers on Facebook, and can she get shot of them? So, because they're plainly of no use to her other than from a kind of vanity metrics point of view. So Christina or Emma, are you able to answer that question? I'm not sure that you can, but...
Yeah, to be honest, I have to hand this over to Christina. I have no idea how you get rid of fake people on Facebook. I wish I could, so I need to know that too.
Yeah, you can do, and I'll pop an article in the chat box that explains exactly how you can go through and do it. But I think this highlights not just actually for buying fake fans, but why I'm definitely not a huge proponent of sort of Facebook fan like chains that you quite often see going on in groups on Facebook, where you like my Facebook page and I like yours. Because just we've been talking about retargeting. Trevor and I have been chatting a little bit in the comments about using Facebook retargeting, and so if I'm showing adverts on Facebook, I typically carve it up and I'd show adverts to people who've visited a website perhaps in the last 6 months or perhaps in the last 30 days. And I'd also show an advert to Facebook fans. Now, if the people who are on my fan page are there because they're friends and family, or they're people who you've been doing sort of like exchanges, they are not my target market. And not only am I wasting money when I then show adverts to them, but then you can also use a feature within Facebook, which is creating lookalike audiences. So if you've got 2,000 people who like your Facebook fan page, you can say to Facebook, okay, you know far more about these people than they probably know about themselves, right down to pretty much the brand of toothpaste they use, music, etc. And so you can say to Facebook, go out onto the Facebook network and find more people who are like my existing tribe. And so if you've got perhaps an audience of 2,000 people who've liked your page, Facebook will find perhaps 100,000 people who are very similar to your existing fans. And these can be a great sort of pool of people to advertise to. But for Facebook to be able to create these lookalike audiences, the original audience they're based on needs to be accurate to people who actually genuinely like your brand. So I'm just going to pop up this article here from Social Media Examiner, which is one of my favorite websites. It's kind of social media marketing in general, which tells you how to remove fans that are potentially fake. And I'd also say try and discourage, stay away from like chains. And it's better to have a smaller, highly targeted group of people on a Facebook page than it is to have kind of 100,000 from that are kind of acquired through slightly dubious methods. It's really sweet of him. That's a nice thing to do for an arm. But he kind of slightly I mean,
but he has his own business now and has the largest fan site in the country for Big Brother. He did this when he was like 14, and he's now 20. He's got his own company. He's in Shoreditch, in the design area. So he's done really well. But he's going, I can get you loads, Auntie. I can get you loads. And I was thinking, and when I realized they were fake, I said, don't buy any more of them.
So, Carol, do you want to just introduce yourself and just say a bit about what you do? And then what would be really great is if you've got some kind of top nuggets that you'd like to share with regard to content marketing.
Yeah. Okay. So my background is in marketing. I've got 20 plus years experience. I've been working for myself for the past 4.5 years. And before that, I worked for the largest actuarial consultancy in the world, where I headed up marketing for Europe. And before that, I worked for a company that pioneered executive coaching in the UK. So I was working with a lot of the FTSE 100 at main board level and also subsidiary board level. And before that, I was in IT. And my role in all of that has always been around, it was called promotion and then it was called communication. And when I started working for myself, I renamed it as visibility, because that's what a lot of my clients were saying to me, is that they wanted to become more visible in their marketplace. And throughout all of my career, one of the things that I've always been heavily involved with is PR. And I probably got into blogging over 10 years ago now. And it was in the corporate world. And I thought, this is going to be such a great platform, especially I thought for consultants mainly at the time, because it gives you a platform to demonstrate your expertise. But I knew that was providing you knew how to schedule a blog, not schedule it, but how to structure a blog correctly. Because if you don't know how to write it properly, you're not going to get the engagement. And we're sort of like faced with just so much information now. You've just got to know how to grab it immediately and sort of like pull them into it. So they stay, because you've only got a few seconds before they hop off onto somebody else. And even though a blog post takes probably about 4 minutes to read, it's still 4 minutes of time that they're deciding, should they spend it with you or should they spend it with somebody else? So I knew once I started working for myself, I was going to do blogging. I didn't have a website to start off with. I guest blog from the word go. One of the things that I would say to anyone who wants to blog, because a lot of people that I work with who blog, they're quite scared, especially if they haven't done it before. And what I always say is, look, I was really scared. I thought when I had my first blog post posted, people were going to say it was useless. They were going to find problems with it, but actually nobody did. And you just go through that process of getting more confident about posting a blog. So I started doing a lot of guest blogging, and then I actually started to run some courses in it. And what I found out was that they were sold out all the time. I was really quite amazed by it. And then I've just recently taken it online. But I would say what I always recommend, a lot of what Denise has said here tonight is exactly what I would endorse. And Denise is absolutely awesome with the amount of blogs that she writes and puts out. And it's always fantastic content. And what I would just say to people is, if you can find 20 or 30 minutes a day to write, you will be amazed at how many outlines of some blogs that you can write. So one of my past clients, she started doing that. She found she could structure about 4 blog posts a week. That, she still had to go back. It was the first draft. She was then being able to post more frequently on LinkedIn. She suddenly started getting, her numbers in LinkedIn really started rocketing. So they were going from a couple of hundred to several thousand. And then she was getting the bigger numbers, like 16,000 reads for one blog post. And then what we did with her was, when she started to build that platform, was then to start to look for some other big publications that she could write for. So she started writing for Huffington Post, and we've got a way to help people to get into Huffington Post. And so I think the biggest thing is, actually just start writing. Try and write for 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day. It's about creating a habit, and it's just like developing a muscle. Your writing is like developing a muscle. So the more you do it, the better and easier and quicker it will come. Make sure that you guest post, because it will just drive a ton of traffic to your site. And as Denise said, if you've got those lead magnets, a download that you can put into your blog post, then what you'll find is that you'll start to build your mailing list that way. And I'm a great believer of, subtly selling through your blog. And you can do that by mentioning clients or giving little vignettes, so very small case studies within your blog to demonstrate your knowledge and your expertise, and to demonstrate also the type of people that are working with you, the people that have come to you with their problems, because it's demonstrating how you can resolve those problems, and just keep going at it. And often what happens is people start writing, they'll write for about 3 months, 4 months, and they'll get really disappointed because they're not getting any engagement, and then they give up. and you've really, really got to be on your mettle, and you've just got to continue driving it through. And sometimes it can take quite a while for you to really get off the ground. I mean, with somebody like Denise, who is posting 1 or 2 blogs a week, that's going to happen a lot quicker. If you're doing it less than that, you've got to look at maybe a year to really start to build a platform for yourself. And some of my clients that I've seen come through now, you know, they're coaches, because I work with a lot of coaches, and they're getting big companies like the big banks approaching them directly saying, can you come and speak at an event for us? You know, or would you come to this conference and speak? So they're really getting some payback for them through investing all that time and effort. And also what some of them are doing as well is taking that information and repurposing it into a book. So your blog post you can repurpose into a lead magnet. At some point you can repurpose into a book. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. And once you've got a blog post, if you've written it, you know, you can always do a video in it. You can always do a podcast about it. You know, there are lots of ways to keep regenerating that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and oh, sorry, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up about that. You know, if you create a piece of content for your blog, is there's multiple ways that you can use it. So the ways that Carol has mentioned, so you can syndicate it on other medium like StumbleUpon, Reddit, Medium, and LinkedIn. But you could do, if Periscope is your thing, you could do a Periscope about it, convert that into a YouTube video, that goes on your YouTube channel. You could do a slide share for it. That's one of the next things in my content marketing, sort of like the evolution of my strategy, is that I will get my VA to turn my some of my blogs into slide shares for me. And, you know, because that's another way of reaching a new audience. So one piece of content can be then converted into a variety of different medium and formats and reused. And who does this amazingly well is Michael Hyatt, who I mentioned. He's just like phenomenal about the way that he recycles and repurposes his content. You were talking about guest blogging. Oh, sorry, Christina.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to dive in and ask Carol about we were talking last night on Blab about predictions for 2016, and I was really championing video, and we're all here on video live streaming, and I don't blog as much as I should do because, unlike Denise, I find writing a chore, partly because I think I'm so much slower at it than I am at talking, and I get frustrated. So do you think it's still important to have written content as the kind of cornerstone of your content strategy? Or if you're like me and don't really like writing, can you just skip it and perhaps throw in some transcripts for your videos?
Well, I think I think one of the things that Denise said earlier, it's what do your clients want? And your clients want to be communicated in different ways. Some of them, it's really easy to have a blog because they'll print it out and they'll read it on the train or the tube going into work, or maybe on the bus, or however they get there. Other people would much rather have a podcast because they can download it, and as they're driving to work or as they're going out to the gym or something like that, they can listen to it. So I think it all depends on how your clients like to receive that information. Then, of course, there's what you naturally like to do as well. And it's very difficult. If you don't like writing, it's very, very difficult to then try and force somebody to write. It's much better to do a blog post, a video blog, and get it transcribed or get part of it transcribed. And somebody who does that very well is a chap called Derek Halpern. He does a lot of video blogging, and he has a certain style. I mean, Marie Folio, she does a lot of video blogging. And of course, you know, you can then use it up onto YouTube. And you're absolutely right, Christina. The video interaction is going to be so big for 2016, and especially with Facebook coming online as well. You know, they've already started, probably out in the States more, but they've already started to roll that out to people. So we've seen the Gary Vaynerchuk's of this world do it, but we're also now seeing Kimra Luna's, you know, who was the internet darling of 2015, and how she quickly rose to fame. And she was so successful with her business. They've like rolled it out to her. And also Facebook are beginning to allow you as well to get, you know, like the little blue tick to get verified. Mm-hmm. And they're doing that not just with people who've got a very big following, but they're also doing it with people who've got like maybe 300 people following them. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason at the moment. And I would imagine they're probably testing it out at the moment.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I suppose my solution, if my preferred medium was video for my blogging activities, what I'd and I wasn't very keen on writing, is I would have a VA or somebody who's good at writing content to just produce a summary of the post to go into the post, because your video is your authentic content, if you like, but you know, it's just get somebody to just do your summary, and then, you know, and then have your transcript as well for people who prefer transcripts. Because I mean, we were talking yesterday about sort of marketing trends for 2016, and mostly I prefer to read, but there will be some, you know, there are some people who I follow that say over lunch, I will watch their podcast or listen to their podcast if it's something that I'm particularly enthusiastic about. But because I read so fast, I can get through a transcript of a podcast way quicker than just listening to it. So, you know, it's you know, there's always ways around it. So, and then I just wanted to pick up one of the things that we were talking about yesterday with relation to predictions for 2016. And that is about that the quality of writing on blogs in particular is going to have to improve. And in part, that's because of the way that Google is working, in the sense that it wants to see really well-written, well-constructed, authoritative content. And so it's somehow or another, through its algorithms and whatever it does, it's able to work that out, evaluate it, and that, you know, that will help you in terms of your ranking. But also because it's, you know, there are so many blogs out there, so much competition as well. But how do you distinguish yourself from the competition? Well, one of the ways that you distinguish yourself from your competition is you do it much better than anybody else does. And there was some research done by the Content Marketing Institute, which is a really great resource. I think we put it up earlier, but it's perhaps worth putting the link up again for that. Their research said that only 19% of bloggers were actually intending to improve the quality of their writing in the coming year. So I thought that was quite an interesting one as well.
I think there's an important point to all this as well, is in terms of your consumer, you know, and as you're rightly saying, I think it depends on how they consume. So in other words, some people, like you're saying, Denise, you prefer to read, other people prefer to listen in terms of the audio, and some people equally love to sit down in front of videos. So I think the trick is to understand where your people are hanging out, in other words, your potential customers, and where then do you need to create content that will feed what they need, basically. So I think that's a really important point. And it's not just really what we're comfortable with. And I think, you know, if our clients potentially like the written word, you know, that's where we have to come back and we have to strengthen our ability to write down all written pointers from people like Carl or whoever is doing blogging really well right now. So I think it's important, but also, like, for example, in the new year, podcasting, a podcast in the new year, video is part of what I've already been doing going forward. Like Cara was mentioning Refolio. There's also a lady here in Ireland that's really good at it as well. Bernadette Doyle, if anybody's seen her, she's in the north of Ireland. She's really good. And they've created themselves that they're the expert in their particular area. And of course, with a video, you can listen to it as well. You don't have to view it necessarily unless somebody obviously is screen sharing. So I think the important point is that not just to focus on what you like and what you're good at, but to expand into different platforms where your customers are hanging out. So if you do need to write blogs, like Carla is saying, if you are not particularly good at writing blogs, perhaps to get the transcript done, to get somebody to repurpose it or rewrite it in a way that's consumable for people. But it's about really understanding who your customers are and where they're hanging out. And I think that's really important. And as well then to up-level our skills in terms of sharing out the content that we want to on the various mediums. Now, the other thing as well is, what are we? I suppose we have to take a step back. We can't be on everything. I mean, that thing as well. I mean, can you really be on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, starting videos, starting podcasting, and at some point, like Denise is saying, is there certain things that you can do and repurpose or indeed get your VA or somebody to do it as well? Like, so going forward for me for podcasting, I'll be doing quite a lot of interviews, and I've already sourced somebody that's actually going to do quite a lot of the audio to help me to do that part of it. Could I do it myself? Most likely. However, I'm not as tech orientated as Christina. It'll probably take me a week to figure it out to start with. And it's a week whereby I'm best placed doing other, creating maybe newer content that will help people as well. So, I think all of this is really super important, but we have to be very sure that our customers are able to consume it in the different ways. And equally, like Carla is saying, is to feed it out on different platforms. I mean, I think Christina mentioned earlier to use Medium as a very good resource. Storify is another one. Repurposing maybe for LinkedIn. There's really great ways that you can feed your content out. In other words, amplify your message out. Collaborations with other bloggers, putting yourself forward, like even the offline stuff. So for example, putting yourself forward for awards, like last year in Ireland, I was a judge for the blogging awards in Ireland, and I got loads of PR because I was a judge for the blogging awards. So naturally enough, I was constantly saying, "Oh, reading lovely blogs for the blogging awards as I'm a judge and whatnot." And equally, obviously, if you're in it, you can use the logo and whatnot. And I think that's an underutilized resource. I think this is where integrated marketing communications is super important. And that's where you're integrating all the different elements. There is no one size fits all. Blogging, content marketing is part of the overall piece. But when you have put something in the Huffington Post and it's printed, when you have created a really good blog, you equally need to amplify that out by being seen. Like, PR is my major thing for the new year. I'm really introverted naturally. I don't particularly like giving talks, even though somehow I seem to get asked to speak at events and whatnot. But going forward, I know in order to amplify out my content marketing, I need to be seen, part of PR, radio, audio. You've got to be on different multiple levels as well. So I think that's important. It's not the only thing in your toolkit. You've got to look at the whole picture. What's your overall objectives? What's your marketing going to achieve for you? What's your stats? And what's your revenue? What's it going to achieve for you? And I think what was the question of the night you said there, Christina, that Carl said there earlier?
I'm decided I'm going to instigate a new feature to our blog without telling the other two. So you're going to have to look at their face. This is nothing.
What's she doing now?
Are you going to tell us what this new feature is?
Yeah. We're going to have a question of the Blab Award. So I'm going to get some special mugs done, which can be dispatched around the world.
I like it.
And Carol wins for the whole, which kind of hit me because it's so bloody obvious, but it's something that I'm massively guilty of, being a little bit self-obsessed. What do your customers and clients want? So just because I hate writing and love listening to podcasts doesn't mean they do. So
correct.
For giving me the kick I need to get working on improving my writing skills in 2016 and giving us a huge amount of great advice today. Carol, you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 weeks before I can get them back. The designs done and get them back from the manufacturer, but there will be.
You not need like the awards, the Academy Awards, or something like that.
So you will have the first edition of the production line. So thanks so much.
I like it.
So we've kind of been going for just sort of over 2 hours. There's something I wanted to just share about SEO and also just briefly around sort of editorial plans as well. But I just wonder, Carol, in terms of your sort of content marketing strategy for next year, are there things, I'll put you right on the spot here, so are there going to be any new medium that you're going to be introducing into your content marketing strategy?
I'm just doing a lot more videoing. So I recently, well, there's a couple of things that have happened. One, I've got a new business partner and he owns his own IT company, and it's a very successful IT company. We're really good friends and we've come together to create a networking group for a start. But we're going to be doing some more things together. That's going to take it into the SME market. But that's for a little bit later on in 2016. One of the things that I wanted to do was more videoing, and I didn't want to go and buy the kit. I don't want to do all the uploads and all the editing. And I came across this company that is only about maybe 15 miles from where I live, and it's called Business Film Booth. And what I do is I bought a membership and I just go down and I can do a whole load of videos. So I book myself in once a month. They upload, they edit. You've got different like various levels that you can buy. I got my business partner Darren to also buy a license as well. And you know, I just think that I haven't done enough video at all. And I just think it will just get me more used to doing it. I think Blab is really good. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Facebook and how they're rolling out live streaming. And I think it's going to be really interesting.
And so that was called what? Yeah. Video, was it Video Business Booths or the other way around?
It's called Business Film Booths.
Right, Business Film Booths. Okay, that sounds like a really great solution to the producing video thing, because I think I mean, this is something that we've talked about on Blabs before, is, you know, one of the things that puts me off doing video is that it's like, oh, I've got to get my hair, you know, it's got to make my hair look good, get my makeup on and da. And then there's the whole lighting and all of that malarkey that I just don't even understand. And so, you know, so if it was like, okay, fine, I get my hair done, do my makeup properly, and I just spend a day just building out a whole bunch of content, that I would, you know, that's really, really brilliant. And also it's in terms of using your time and batching your content in that way is a really effective use of your resources. And that's something, sort of going back to Michael Hyatt, that's something he does so effectively as well, is he batches, you know, if he's doing podcasts, he spends 2-3 days doing podcasts and that's it. You know, he batches out all of his content, and you know, it's just much more.
They don't use there's no you've got to do it from like either memory. So I'm really good at remembering.
Yeah.
But there is no I can't think of the word for it at the moment, but there is autocue. There's no autocue. So
but there's one for free. You can get one for free. There's qprompter.com.
No, they don't let you use it.
Oh, okay.
Because they want you to be as natural as possible. So first of all, you've got to get used to just talking into the camera. But if you do webinars, that's quite easy to do because you're used to talking to like no one. And then what you've got to do is remember. So what they really help you is to get that messaging right and to start at the right place and to really get rid of the fluff that we all start off with when we start talking in videos. So they're really, really good. So they help you to do the messaging. They'll help you to do things for like 15 seconds, you know, for Instagram. I've got 40 seconds. The other day I did 2.5 minutes. And then what they do is they do all the analysis behind it as well. So you can have your call to action. You can put your branding into it. You can then see how well it's doing. They track and see not only who's read it all the way through or listened to it all the way through, but then who clicked on to do the call to action. So it's very good. I know they're going to at some point start to roll it out nationally.
Right, I shall keep an eye out for that, ready for when I want to start doing videos myself. So if I just kind of move on, just to sort of whiz through just the last little bit of content that I had prepared. So one of the big mistakes that I made in the early days of blogging was, well, first of all, I didn't have my Facebook pixel up and running, so because I just didn't know about that, and I thought that retargeting was some really super complicated thing. And the other thing that I hadn't done was have an SEO plugin on my website as well. So I use WordPress, and so the plugin that I use is called Yoast. So it's very simple to install and really, really simple to use. And it gives you, you know, you choose what your the keywords that you want to focus on are for that particular article, and then it will give you some guidance about how you can improve your SEO rating for that particular blog post and that particular key phrase that you're looking to get found for. And so that's really sort of proving, you know, that's a really invaluable and very easy to use tool that I really wish I'd known about right at the beginning. One of the things that I was worried about when I was writing out my content was, oh, well, you know, how do I make sure that I've got enough of those keywords in it with and my article not looked like it was sort of being forced with them. And the way I do it is I write my piece, and then I go back through it and then just see where I can just pop in that key phrase and just sort of lightly pepper it through my blog post. And I just do it that way. And you know, I thought, you know, first time I did it, it was you know, I found it quite hard. But then after I'd done it 2-3 times, it was like, okay, fine. I've got the measure of this, and it's sort of easy to do. So that is something that I didn't do, and really wish that I had done right from the outset, and because it's such an easy win. Do you want to say something, Christina, about SEO strategy yourself? That's a bit of a global thing, but about not like too long, but about, you know, sort of how, you know, how do you choose your, you know, how do you go about choosing keywords for an article? And, you know, what have you got some favorite resources that you would share with people for that?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question.
Well, you had one that you shared with us, because I went off and wrote what I hoped would be my killer blog post off the back of some research that you did.
Okay, well, first of all, the plugin that Denise had mentioned, so Shannon was asking, so I've typed it into the link, so it's yoast.com. There's also all-in-one SEO. Those are the big two that you'll also find SEO professionals using and recommending. And personal preferences for Yoast. I found it's a great one to be able to very quickly show clients and sort of teach them to sort of self-educate so as they're writing. When it comes to choosing keywords, SEO is changing a lot. So, and again, if anyone's not sure what we're talking about, search engine optimization. So when you go onto Google and you type in how to develop a content marketing strategy, what decides what are the first websites that show up in the organics and the natural search results rather than the paid for adverts. That is all decided for through SEO. And there's a whole number of factors, and I'm not going to go into them tonight, partly because I'm flagging slightly, and it's probably about another 90 minutes worth of blabbing to kind of go through SEO. It's very fast changing, and lots of rumours around at the moment about a big new Google update coming out. And I'd say that this is where being really realistic and practical with your SEO strategy. So you've got to think who your competitors are. If you're starting with a brand new website and you're going up against, the kind of either the superstars of the online marketing world or the online coaching or very established people. So for one of my e-commerce sites, our main rivals here in the UK for keywords that we're trying to always kind of go toe-to-toe with would be John Lewis, Debenhams, Argos, Amazon. So just a few of the small guys, and this, so this is where you do all the keyword research in the world, and then there becomes a little bit of a gut feel, and also how big your appetite for war is on where to go. So, for example, again, going back to my Valentine's Day one, this actually, this is me going off. Having not looked in massive detail because we've not uploaded all the Valentine's content yet, it's still in draft stage. But generally, the keyword present is far less competitive than gifts. So for me, although the kind of number one keyword will be something like Valentine's gifts or Valentine's gifts for her, I also know that it's far more realistic to try and rank for something like unusual Valentine's presents. So that's something that will have fewer searches, but I've got a chance of getting my homepage on there. There's no point being sort of number 50 for the top keyword out there. And this is where, for everyone who is operating in the business-to-business sort of environment, and it's one of the reasons why with my digital marketing agency, we've got a particular niche within the horse business. And this is because it is far easier to rank for terms to do with marketing your horse business than marketing your business. I'm not going up against Inc.com, Forbes.com, the kind of Harvard Business Review, etc., for those very, very generic business keywords. So this is yet another blab on the power of your niche. And knowing, so again, that might be geographic. We've had some people today with some really interesting businesses. And we had someone with the tea company, and he was talking very much about how they focus heavily on Yellowstone and Montana. It'd be easier to rank for something like Montana coffee than just coffee. If you can get even more specific down to perhaps Yellowstone coffee or a particular sort of sort, it becomes easier again. So I'm not going to go in any massive depth on SEO. I would say that any of the rules that kind of come, the big penalties that come through, is anything to do with is people trying to game the system. So it's a bad habit. Internet marketers are at heart quite naughty people because we spend our entire time trying to game the system. So we had Carol earlier talking about her very enterprising nephew, and I always think that teenagers who've got a little bit of a naughty streak, and even actually younger children, which I'm desperate to hire on. Emma's daughter definitely got a mischievous streak, which is what I think
she's swinging out of a light as we're I'm afraid to look.
Awesome as an entrepreneur, but perhaps not very easy to parent. And so, if you're doing things that you come back to the rule where Carol's, a kind of blab kind of quote stroke question of what's best for your customers, how do they want to consume content? There's also writing good content. And yes, you need to have some awareness of SEO, but I would say you're better off to write an outstanding bit of content with great grammar, language, and that's language that's relevant to your audience. I was doing some work earlier today on a piece of content for a car industry website, where it's much more casual and laid back than perhaps if I was writing a piece for business to business. So I wouldn't introduce the video going, "All right, mate," if I was trying to sell perhaps on LinkedIn to CEOs of large companies. Yeah. in this particular industry, almost obligatory. So it's knowing your audience and writing, and I kind of think the one rule that trumps it all is just put really good, useful content out there, and then you can't go wrong. So so it's me sort of skirting around the edges of SEO because Denise throwing me.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm very mindful of time and how long we've been going. I just wanted to, Carol, you said that you've taken your blogging course online. So I did the day course with Carol. I can't remember when it was now. It was
a year ago.
It was over a year. It was well over a year ago. And it was really, really great and so informative. So I mean, if you want to pop up in the chat box about how people can be in contact with you, and if you've got any sort of link specifically around your online course, then do that, because if blogging is an important part of your strategy, then Carol's a really great person to go to for that.
Thank you, Denise.
Do we want to, whilst Carol's just doing that, segue to just have to just say something about how people can work with us going forward? I'm just got to get a glass of water because I'm going to expire. So I'm just wondering about passing that baton over to Emma there.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Denise.
Elegantly done.
I'll try not to drop the baton. There's a number of ways, I guess, that you can work with Denise, Christina, and I. All of us have our individual businesses. I'm a marketing strategist. Christina is a digital marketing maven, in particular with e-commerce. She's got 3 e-commerce businesses. So if retargeting is your thing, definitely talk to Christina. And Denise then has 25 years experience in business. And in particular, she spent 8 years as an I was going to say an SEO.
Doing time as CEO.
So I suppose we've got our individual businesses, but equally we have been chatting over coffee and over Blab and over Skype and all the rest of it for the last while, and we have put together a mastermind for the new year. We've mentioned it a couple of times in a couple of Blabs, but it might be something some of you may be interested in. I can't actually share the link, but if you are interested, if Christina or Denise don't mind sharing the link in terms of looking for information, what I might do, because Denise is better at this, explaining just kind of the outline of it, but essentially it will be about working with us for a year, tapping into kind of our combined experiences, and really what we're looking at is helping people to grow their businesses significantly. It's not typically for newbies in the sense of typically people have, business already, it's pretty robust, and they really want to up level it to to go forward and on different things, whether it be HR, whether it be they need to look at the finance, their marketing, their digital marketing, and you get a kind of combined, our combined experience as well as accountability. So what I might do is hand it over to Denise, and she might just explain it a bit further, and we won't leave Christina out as well. We won't keep you too long, but if you are interested, there is a link there. We would love to work with some of you guys. We've met some really interesting people on Blab, and I suppose going forward in 2016, the 3 of us combined are looking at putting ourselves out there. We've got some good experience, we'll say, over the last 20 odd years, and we really want to help people moving forward, and really excited about that. So I'll just hand over to you, Denise, and you can kind of continue that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we've just got a point coming from somebody who's interested. The link that Christina's put up is a link which takes you to straight through to our so that you can get a copy of our prospectus. Just a word of warning, it's a PDF document. It's not some beautiful glossy document, because we just didn't have the time to be able to do that, and that's got everything set out in detail in there. So it's got a bit more about our background and experience, and what we've put together is, I suppose, what we've called a curriculum. So a kind of plan of outline of different themes to take us through the year, which are all the kind of common issues that people come across that have to deal with in their businesses. So we kick off in January doing work on your business strategy. So there's some one-to-one work with each of us. So working on your business strategy and your financial plan, and then building out from that your sales and marketing strategy, both online and offline. And then we've got a series of monthly activities. So there'll be monthly group sessions. There's a mid-month call as well. So if anybody's hit a roadblock, got any questions, struggling with something, you can get an answer straight away to help you to be able to move things forward. And so there's going to be a big emphasis on accountability. So one of the questions that we've had is this an online program? No, it isn't. I think probably the best way of describing it is 3-for-1 coaching, actually, is really what it is. And so it's very action orientated, very results driven. So whilst we will possibly take some startups, those would be startups who are coming with people who've got some relevant experience to bring to bear. So what I would call business savvy, because what you can't have in a mastermind group is people at such different levels that some people are going really, really fast and sort of speeding ahead, and other people are sort of really, really slow. And because what happens is the faster ones just don't get the value, don't get the same level of value. And so we're very much pitching it as being around more advanced business and marketing strategies, which we think there's a big gap in the market for as well. How much time is there monthly? So there's I don't know whether it's going to be, we've got time zones to factor into this because of where people are from. But so we've got, I think it's a 2-hour or so call once a month that is a group accountability call. And then we've got a call mid-month, which is there if you need it for help and support. There will be some teaching in it, because there are going to be some topics, some areas that a significant proportion of the group, the most time efficient way to bring everybody up to speed will be through a bit of teaching, but it's not specifically a teaching program. It's very much around delivering results on your business and providing the support and direction from us, from our collective set of skills, as well as the accountability. So I was in a mastermind group in 2014, and when I reflect back now on the results that I got in 2014 as compared to 2015, the key difference, the key factor I would say in that was that in some ways I think my results were better in 2014 was because I showed up every month to my mastermind group, always having done exactly what I said I would do, and I set goals that were sufficiently stretched as well in order to move my business along without actually killing myself. And so it was that showing up every month, being accountable against the goals and targets that I had set for myself, that really helped me to create the momentum that I got in my first year of business. So that's kind of a real key feature for us. So that's probably as much as I want to say. Is there anything you want to add in, Christina?
I would just say that this for me has been 2015. I've finally had a chance after an absolute blinder of a final quarter of the e-commerce businesses to really sit down and kind of analyze in a lot of detail. Actually, probably just kind of wider stuff, because I am constantly, because of the nature of online marketing, especially with paid advertising, they're looking at things very closely on a daily basis. But to kind of get to pull back and do that kind of that kind of 20,000 foot view. For me, I've never spent as much money as I have this year on education. In some ways, it's actually slightly scary how much money has been spent on myself and my team. But that is what's really made the difference. So, e-commerce, the first site went live in 2001. So we'll be 15 years online in 2016. So, no baby at this game, but it is a constant kind of learning game. And this year it's not so much been, again, actually, especially because my line of work, there are always shiny new toys. Sort of Google AdWords launched something about 8 weeks ago, which to me is just absolutely fascinating. But these are very much tactics. This year has been really taking an in-depth look at the strategy behind the business. There's been some fairly major changes in sort of projects, and a big part of having the bravery to make some really tough decisions. One of them was closing down a retail store to concentrate totally on the online side of that business, and it was having people like Emma and Denise to, a sounding board when you're having to make these decisions, and also spending a lot of time. I've been doing a lot of travel this year. We seem to be zipping back and forth across the Atlantic. Had an amazing time in Dublin at Web Summit, and is taking a lot of inspiration and ideas from outside of my sort of core kind of industry. So luckily everyone's starting to get used to the fact that I at times will be doing really random things, like in the middle of a bowling game, and suddenly I'm like, okay, no one talks to me for 3 minutes because I've just seen the most amazing ad campaign, in a kind of flyer at the bowling alley that I'm thinking, okay, cool, how can I straight away roll that out into my business? And so for me, it's been education, inspiration. I really feel I was probably one of those freaky people who I kind of announced at 6 p.m. on Boxing Day that, okay, I've done my 48 hours of no work. So, that was my kind of thing. I said, right, I know it's Christmas and I know it's Boxing Day, so you guys will have my full attention. But okay, I'm really bored now. It's time to go back to work, because to me, business is fascinating, and what makes it far more fun is A, making lots of money from it, and B, having fun because of bouncing back and forth with kind of great people. And so, yes, this is a deadly serious program in terms of getting big business results. And this isn't coming from, I'm going to break my rule of swearing. This isn't coming from some bullshit. Oh yeah, we're life coaches who'll teach you how to get to 6 figures by selling courses to other life coaches. So this is kind of hard earned, in the trenches, every battle scar going. If there's a mistake to make, I'll have done it. So you may as well learn from me and save yourself.
Somebody's saying, thank God.
Yeah.
Tina.
Don't be ranting about glitter and Eiffel Towers, or we'll be here for a while. So, but just because it's serious, and we're serious about results, it doesn't mean you can't have a lot of fun. And so, I'm so excited. We've got some great people on board. I'm looking forward, because I know I'm going to learn a huge amount this year from, the more time I spend with Emma and Denise, and then the people they introduce you to. The first time I've met Carol tonight, and it's my little recruit. Hey, Olivia. With her iPhone.
Of course, and don't drop that.
To me, it's a really important part, because you can also feel really alone in business, and it's certainly for me with the e-commerce side of things. That's a particular business where you're not doing a lot of in-person networking, and you're having to make these decisions. Sometimes even really simple things like, I've got to send a really horrible email tomorrow, and I've written it. It's too much.
You've got real competition there.
Sorry, Olivia, back off. This is my blab. She's probably going to run away now. So yeah, it's just having the sounding board over something as really simple as an email, although it is to a fairly key sort of business partner, versus massive strategy questions. And these two ladies have my back. They're incredibly smart. They're my go-to, and a big part of the results I've got this year is from having A players in the background who, on the surface, everyone thinks, oh yeah, it's you're the one, and it's your business, and you're the one putting in the hours, etc. And actually, I really want to emphasize that as well, because while we're talking about life coaches, this is not a 4-hour work week. We're not going to give you 20 hours a week of homework. But on the other hand, let's get real. This isn't sort of butterflies and unicorns. No shortcut to success. It's still going to require a lot of time, and potentially financial investment, because that's the other thing. You need to be able to not only get involved in it's a problem I'm coming across actually with marketing clients at the moment, where I'm actually turning them away because I'm saying it is not the best use of you don't have enough of an ad budget for you to be able to make enough of the difference to justify my fee. So if there's something where it's a really big reach and you then not necessarily can have any extra money to implement, either whether that be marketing ideas or bringing in extra staff, it's perhaps not something for you. But if you want to make 2016 massively profitable and fun, then ask for a prospectus and find out a little bit more about what it's about.
Yeah, I just want to quickly answer the point that's come in about from Liftcoms there about being concerned about time. What I just say is that's not something that we can really deal with right here in the Blab. I think is have a look at the prospectus and see whether it's something that in the first instance is what you think would be right for your business right now. And then what we're doing for anybody that wants that is scheduling. We've got some time allocated to do calls with people. So those are the kind of questions and sort of thing that points that we can have a discussion about then on the call, and just pick it up then. So just kind of, we've been going for such a long time, so if we could just wind up with one very brief thing to do with content marketing that would be our kind of key share, if you like. So if I just start with mine. So mine would be just get into a habit. So when I talked earlier on about how I started off with just writing one blog a week published at a set time, which I then sent out to, or I had my VA send out to my email list. And I just got into the habit of doing that for a while before I started to add anything else onto my content marketing strategy. And then over time, I then started to build it out as I got more familiar with it, and as I worked out how long things were going to take. So that would be my kind of number one sort of takeaway. What about for you, Carol? Or what would be your number one piece of advice on the content marketing strategy? So it might be just a reiteration of something that's been covered already.
I would just say to people, remember that your client as a whole, so don't think that they are just coming to you for what you can provide. Just really think about their whole journey, because if you can also sort of like go a bit broader and talk about some other things, and whether that's through your social media, that you're going to get more attention. So don't just focus on one thing. Just look at the whole of the issues that they've got going on, what all of their challenges are, their journey, and then try and build your content marketing around that. You don't have to write about everything, but just remember maybe to feed some of it through your social media.
Brilliant. And then Emma?
Yeah, just even following up from that is really understanding, I mean, my whole thing is consumers and understanding your customer. So really understanding your customer's persona. Something I didn't kind of mention earlier is, even think of how are the customers visualizing having used your product or service? So what's the end goal for them? So to kind of have that in your mind. So have your customer's endpoint in your mind. And that will help you, I think, in terms of content marketing that will help your customer with that. So that's one point I would say to people.
And Christina?
I would say let tech do some of the heavy lifting for you. So Denise gave a great example of how she is, she's reusing content, she's pushing it out. We've talked about how you can take one piece of content. Carol was showing the example of taking a blog post and perhaps turning it into a video, and then also potentially publishing it on places like Medium and LinkedIn, etc. You can use technology to quickly publish to lots of places. and you can do it from your phone. You don't even have to be in front of a computer. Equally, we've had people in the comments mentioning things like Fiverr, people per hour. Denise uses a VA. There's no reason why you have to be doing the heavy lifting, even if a computer can't do this. And you can certainly be setting things up to auto. If you post a blog post, it will automatically push it out onto your Facebook or your personal Twitter and things like that. And so that use technology in a way that saves you time rather than getting bogged down in it.
Brilliant. Okay, so just to wind things up, just to say that we do a regular blab on a Monday evening at 9 o'clock GMT. So that will be 4 o'clock on East Coast America and 1 o'clock on the West Coast of America, and I think it might be 8 o'clock in the morning in Sydney. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is actually at a respectable time for anybody who's in Australia. So that's our normal time for blabbing, but for doing our blab. But because we've got sort of a number of people in our kind of community who really struggle with the whole content marketing thing, we thought we would just do a special blab as a sort of one-off on this particular topic. So we're going to be back here next Monday evening at 9 o'clock British time. So we'd love it if some of you are able to join us then. And thank you very much for being with us this evening and being so generous with your contributions in the chat box and really participating with us. We really do appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, indeed.
Just to reiterate to Hilary, who joined us live earlier, and Carol, and they're both very busy ladies, so we really appreciate your time. And yeah, the chat has been like completely insane tonight. I love it. So it's been a job to keep up, but that is a nice problem to have. And just want to say thank you to everyone. And I'm impressed actually at the go-getting between Christmas and New Year, while everyone else is scoffing down on mince pies and watching crappy TV repeats. You guys,
I'm still eating the mince pie.
Yeah.
Not watching.
I could really do with a mince pie right now. All I've got that's Christmassy is a satsuma in the house.
Oh gosh. Well, I just like to take up from the ladies as well. Look, thank you all so very much. We've had wonderful people on here tonight. Thank you, Carol, and obviously to Hilary earlier as well for taking part. Really, really do appreciate that, and for sharing some wonderful strategies for blogging. Really, really, really appreciate that, Carol. And thank you to everybody in the chat as well, because you've been really active, as Christina was saying, which is absolutely fantastic, because that's what we really love. Obviously, this is a topic closer to our hearts, so I think in the new year there might be a webinar in this somewhere, and we'll keep you posted. And I think as well, next Monday, as we said, 9 p.m. GMT time, we possibly will do more. If you're interested in the mastermind, have a look. Do come back to us. Do ask us questions. We're prepared to stand and have a quick chat with you. That's not, that's literally just a chat and just answering your questions. So happy to do that. And I suppose the big thing is it's nearly the new year. So if we don't see you, which we probably won't in the meantime, so happy new year. So we'll see you in 2016, I believe.
Yes.
I have, more water in my glass. Genuinely, it's water again. I don't know why I'm putting water in a wine glass, but anyway, because I have no wine left, which is terrible too. But look, a happy new year to everybody. And thank you so much for joining the Blab tonight. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.